All right. Hello, hello. Hello. He's not there. My co-host. Where have you gone?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what?
Oh, there he is.
I just realized that I forgot to deafen. So you've been yelling into the ether, and it's been heard by everyone. Sorry for taking so long.
No, I just undeafened myself like 2 seconds ago.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Hello, chat room. Hello, Ristretto's chat room. How are you little cutie muffins doing today? I hope you're excited for a rabble-rousing podcast. It's gonna be good stuff. It is a funny idea to me that, like, the second I got up, you'd been talking and had to somehow, forgotten to deafen as well. We've just been speaking into the void. It is pretty good. It is pretty good. Tempted to just sit here and sort of let you go on for a bit, but
thank you for not. I'm just calling out. Where are you, pal?
You like cats at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yep, exactly.
Good afternoon.
Where are you?
Good evening, everyone. Hope we're all doing fantastically today. Ristretto, how are you today?
I'm pretty good. It was a nice, normal Monday. My job is not particularly crazy or busy on Mondays, so I worked some. I worked at a coffee shop, and I took a nap. I did some reading about processor architecture, because that's what I do in my free time. And now I get to play some Monster Hunter with you. So, I don't know. I've had a pretty nice day.
That sounds very good. Sounds very good.
How's your day?
My day has been pretty good. I woke up and I cooked some breakfast, which was pretty nice. And the sun's out, so I went for a walk with my lady friend. And then, after a nice walk in the sunshine, you get a little bit of a song in your heart. So I've been just kicking back at home, playing bass all day, jamming out to some songs, and it's been good fun.
Nice. Sounds good for the soul.
It is good for the soul. I could wax poetic about Soul Train for a while, but maybe that's another time. But I think we jump straight into old Lagiacrus here. We get the urgent done, because
I think so too.
We got a heck of a docket for you today lined up, respective chat room and people.
We do. We have quite the list of topics here, and a challenge maybe at some point.
I think we got it. I think we got it. Right.
Okay.
We have to complete my urgent, the hunt Lagiacrus. I think it's going to be good stuff. But first of all, everybody, tell me one good thing that happened in your respective weeks. I'll actually drop my controller on the floor, pull up your chat so I can...
Nice. I have your chat open.
Oh,
I can see Uchi there and Uchi in my chat saying hello to both of us.
He's keck wearing.
Alright, let's see. For my one good thing that happened to me this week was that my work started serving really tasty pumpkin bread, like pumpkin pound cake bread, and I've had that not quite every day, but almost every day for the last several days, and it goes really nicely with coffee, and that has just kind of made my day a little bit each day.
Does sound good. Sounds like one of those fall flavors that I'd like to try. I only tried pumpkin pie for the first time this year, and it was made by...
that, I think last time.
Oh well.
No, I'm not correcting you.
Oh no, I didn't think so. I was more embarrassed about my faux pas, my faux pas, mentioning things that I'd already mentioned. Now, I have a favor. Can I have some potions? Or I've none.
Yeah, you can buy them from the shop.
I'm not sure that I can, because I haven't touched the village yet. Like, she won't sell me any she won't sell me any potions because I haven't started village on this character. I think I might...
I'm terribly sorry. I gotta take a break for just a second. I'll be right back. Why don't you, I don't know, tell the stream about what you've been up to this past week.
Oh, this past week? This past week, chat, I've been up to 3/5 of trying to be productive and organize stuff, but it has not quite panned out that way. But it's been good. I'm excited to get back to Freedom Unite next week. I'm excited to sort of have all my ducks in a row. It'll be good. Ooh, Uchi. That's good. That's good. Talking to family members. Melbourne is no longer in lockdown, so legally I'm allowed to leave my house and not feel so guilty about it. FU's not dead? No, I said this 1,000 times. It's not like I'm gonna quit it. It's just I'm gonna complain about it, and then, October is always spooky games month. Of course. Of course, I was not gonna ditch FU. It's coming back. I didn't see the monsters that I wanted to see. I hope Rist's cats are all good. No cat emergencies. Wee doggy. Which are Hypnocatress and Yamasukami. They're like the only two monsters in all of... Oh, and Copper Blangonga. They're the only two monsters in all of, like, mainline Monster Hunter that I've never fought. So, it kind of needs to happen. They're good ones. I'm sure that they're fun to look at. But...
Alright, I'm back.
Welcome back. I hope everything is all good.
There was a minor... it wasn't a cat emergency. There was a minor cat goings-on that I needed to check in on.
Did one of your cats make a noise?
No, one of our cats has decided that it is their goal in life to... I mean, they love consuming food and getting into the trash, but they've recently decided that the, you know the little, like, strainer you put in your sink, so that when you wash things down the sink, it doesn't go down the drain?
I'm aware of them, yeah.
Our cat has decided that it is his life's mission to, take that and chew it to death all throughout the house while making an awful, like, noise.
Pretty brilliant.
And my wife pulled me away to inform me of the latest goings on with that and what she had tried to most recently to keep the cat from doing that.
Pretty good. You know, I've learned something about cats. They'll never do what you... 3 years I've had my cats. They keep getting on the bench. They're always on the bench. I don't leave food there. There's nothing for them on the bench, but they get up on my bench. Like little scavengers, little devils. Why don't...
What's a bench?
Oh, you guys might call it a counter.
The way you pronounce that's great.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's actually like a weird Antipodean difference. We call a counter a bench. And you call a bench what those fancy football players sit on.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, you know, bench me, coach. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
I don't think they asked me.
What do you guys call the bench press?
The bench. I think we call it a bench press.
Okay.
I think bench just has multiple meanings. I don't know too many gym fellas though. Maybe we call it a
Me neither.
counter press or something.
Maybe you do. All right. Well, that was an interesting start to the stream.
I agree.
I know you've told Chad of how your last week was, but do you want to tell me a little bit about what you spent the last week or two doing?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
No, it's fine. I've been busy organizing myself for a charity stream next month, and it has a lot of people helping me out. It's sort of a group activity, so getting them all organized. There's an Excel spreadsheet involved, so that should tell you just how serious business this is. I had to open Excel, and by that I mean someone else opened Excel and did it for me, but
nice.
Excel was opened by someone. It was pretty good.
I only have one Excel spreadsheet to my name, so I can understand the severity of such a situation.
Yeah, see, it's nuts. But it's been good. I've also been attempting to clear a fight in Final Fantasy XIV called UCOB, or the Unending Coil of Bahamut. And that has been nightmarish, but pretty fun. Pretty fun nonetheless. Other than that, nothing of note. I'm glad to be out of lockdown. It's very nice.
Yeah, you mentioned that happened for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned you went to a nice botanical garden the other day.
I did. There were some very nice smelling flowers. An old Armenian woman had me take her photo.
Aw.
She trusted me with her phone. It was nice.
Sounds like a sweet, normal human interaction.
It was. She didn't look at me like a vagabond. Anyhow, that's my week. How have you been? What have you been up to this past fortnight?
I've been plodding away.
Sorry?
We've been doing a little bit of Monster Hunter variety, but I've been plodding away at 3 Ultimates Village, and we just recently took our time, cleared on through. We've cleared all the village quests now, and I've collected up some nice weapons, including these dual blades I'm wielding tonight.
Oh, even the high rank village?
No, just low rank village. Sorry,
okay.
low rank village.
No, gotcha.
We've not gone that quickly. That would have been quick for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, didn't you start this game a month ago? No, you can't beat a game in a month.
No, not me. We slow run around these parts. But yeah, so I think in a little bit here, I want to give some impressions of this game so far. I feel like it's kind of fun to check in at different points in the game, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll get our bearings here, warm up on Mr. Legai, Chris.
I'm intrigued. What did you think of the low rank village experience in 3U?
Okay, we can jump right into it. Let's see. So, I guess some of the things that I'm most enamored with so far, I guess it would have to be... I guess one of the things I'm probably the most enamored with, honestly, is how well the village in this game ties together a lot of disparate systems. A lot of Monster Hunter games have a lot of systems. Like, you have your companion system, you have your farm, you have like a trader, you have the smith, you have quests, you have maybe a free hunting mechanic depending on the game. You have all these different mechanics. They're not always tied together very well. Like, you'll have your points, and maybe the points will pull double duty at like the canteen and at the trader, but not always. In this game, it really feels like your fishing and your farming and the free hunting all kind of loop together in really nice ways, where you get the points from the free hunting, but you also unlock special items that you can use both for the farm and for the fishing and all these different things, which also goes back to the trading at the Argosy. It feels very cohesive, and I think that's pretty cool. None of the other I don't know, sets of mechanics in the series have really felt quite as tied together to me. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, I agree. 3U feels like a very complete experience, shall we say. Like, all of the parts feel melded together. And I wonder, like, because we weren't there, but I wonder how it would have felt coming from Freedom Unite, or like just second gen in general, to 3 Ultimate. Like, to me, it looks like it would have been the jump between, like, PS2 and PS3 in terms of graphics, back when, like, everyone was super into that kind of thing. Even though, I think the PS3 was out for a while by the time this game came out, but just for this series, I think that would have been really, really special.
Yeah, likely so. That is another thing that actually it segues pretty nicely into another one of my impressions, is that I really enjoy 3rd generation in general for its designs. I've talked about this a little bit online over the last month or so, but I think that 3rd generation is one of the few generations in the game that's brave enough to not bring back a whole lot of returning armor, monsters, or weapons. Like, there's still a good handful, but a good chunk of the monsters and the armor designs and the maps and like everything are all unique. There's not really a whole lot of returning content. And so not only does that mean there's lots of new stuff, but it means that all the stuff that is new is kind of done pretty cohesively. And I think that, like, there is a universe where they make all new stuff, but it doesn't mesh together super well. I feel like everything in this game, design-wise, really fits together nicely, from the colors to just the style of the designs. I find stuff from this generation in particular exceedingly satisfying to collect, because everything feels colorful and creatively designed, and, like, you've got a lot of stuff that's just kind of cool, but you've also got a good chunk of stuff that's just goofy, like the Pecco heavy bowgun, or I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And I've been enjoying that quite a bit.
Yeah, I think that may be a more concise version of the point I butchered last week. Oh, sorry, last fortnight. But yeah, that I feel exactly the same way. I really love seeing all new content like that, and I can say 3U feels very, very, very fresh in a good way, and I'm glad to hear you're enjoying 3U. I hope to hear how you feel about it as you trudge through High Rank Village.
Yeah, so far I felt like the low rank village scaling was pretty tame. Like, the monsters didn't hit. I mean, the monsters actually deal decent damage, to be honest with you, but their health is quite low, which I think is probably where it should be for low rank village. I'm not really expecting it to be super steep, especially because I've played a lot of these monsters against a lot of these monsters in the past, or I've used a lot of these weapons in the past, so I guess I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm not getting the grips with as much of it, but I don't know. I've not upgraded my armor at all, and there haven't been a whole lot of hunts that have thrown me for a loop. But like I said, again, it's low rank village. I'm kind of excited to see as I go through the game more what I think the scaling is like, or the challenge is like.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going through low rank hub next. I'm not going to go straight to high rank village, even though I technically have access to that already.
Fair. I think that the hub is a pretty fun experience too, and you unlock like a lot of the canteen stuff. So I think that sounds like a really good idea.
Also, I want to acknowledge that our friend Biotech is in the chat, and they were telling me about how abysmal this matchup is for dual blades, not solo, but in multiplayer. I don't know if I'm just like hunting poorly because it's my first hunt of the night, but man, I'm having a hard time hitting this thing at. This is a slippery Lagiacrus.
Yeah, Lagiacrus, he is a little devil. He does move around quite a lot.
I'll get him. I'll get used to him.
Yeah. Man, this guy, he does seem so imposing under the water. Like, he's fun on land, but he really does feel out of his element, huh?
Yep.
Or,
I think it's neat.
Yeah,
there aren't that many monsters that have two different phases like that they transition back and forth between.
Sorry for blasting you.
That's okay. I could use the extra iframes.
There we go. Always a silver lining.
Oh, could use some there too. Let's see. I'm trying to think if I have any. I don't have like a load of impressions.
Was there anything in particular that you didn't like assessing it against?
Not really. I'm still undecided about Underwater. I don't have anything super interesting to say about it aside just that it's very interesting to me that Underwater feels like a regression from the on-land combat in terms of player advantage and player control. Like, it feels jankier to play in a way that some of the older games feel jankier to play. And I think that's interesting, having a game where the combat transitions from a slightly newer, more, like, I don't know, free combat dynamic, free-flowing combat dynamic to a little bit more of a restrictive one underwater. It's an interesting concept, and I haven't really decided how I feel about it yet.
I think that largely my impression of it, and of course I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's not so much of it in this game that it ever overstays its welcome. Like, it's not like every second hunt is an underwater hunt, and I think that that would be too much, but there's just enough of it that it's like clear this is the intended mechanic for this game. But
I poisoned him before I died, at least.
Thank you. I don't think that there's so much of it that it like overstays its welcome or feels wrong, but there's not so little of it that it's like, why did they even bother with this? I think that they did a really good job.
I was kind of thinking about that when I was thinking about this part of my impressions, is like, well, I have to wait. There's still some underwater hunts I haven't done, but not very many. Like, I haven't done Plezioth yet. He's not in Lower Rank Village. I haven't done let's see, any of the Lagiacrus variants or subspecies. I haven't done Purple Ludroth, but there's really not a lot more underwater monsters from what I know of. So I've done some of the fights at least.
Yeah. I do think, I think that it has a nice mix. This, the old 3U.
It's one of the, it's one of the few mechanics in the series that I think is truly very polarizing. I think probably because it's quite different. A lot of people don't like it. I think the consensus probably sways a bit negative on it, but in general, it seems like there are just kind of, it's not like there are a whole lot of people who are like, it's fine. There are a lot of people who are like, I don't like it, or dude, I love it, I want it back.
Yeah, I think I might. I land in the, I really, really like it. Like, I love it for this game, but I don't necessarily want it back because I think it's part of what makes 3 Ultimate special. However, like, I think I was saying this the other time. I was like, you know, change, good, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, World, like, hits, you know, what was it, top 10 best-selling games of all time?
Top 50.
Top 50? Okay, okay.
Yep, top 50 earlier this week.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing that, like, it became Capcom's biggest selling best-selling game, like, off the back of World alone. So I think that shifted my perspective a bit to, like, yeah, you know, find the way to give each game its identity. But I'm probably the outlier on the one who wants things to be a little different. And, you know, that's fine. I'm not a dev. I'm not on the dev team. I got no influence. And I guess I'm excited to see what they come up with, but I don't necessarily want Underwater back. But I wouldn't complain if they were like, this is what we want to do. Interesting.
Yeah, I kind of just want to see whatever they've got in mind next, because I think that both World and Rise are pretty interesting. I'd be down to see just more whatever the team wants.
Yeah, yeah. I think World was very good. But I
think my last... Oh, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I find it interesting that I, like, had sort of clouded my judgment in a way of, like, yeah, you know, this is how I feel. And then I saw, like, yeah, it's top 50 best-selling games of all time. Like, there are still people who are just being introduced to this formula and just getting to experience it. So I am interested to talk to people who started with World and haven't gone back, how they feel about, I guess, the franchise. I guess you can't really comment on the franchise as a whole if you've only played one game, but I'm intrigued. I want to know what they would like. So if anyone in the chat started with World and has somehow only played World, sound off.
True that. I think my last impression from playing this game's Village is I think it's the first game in the series where they really gave any particular character's character development and tied them into the central plot, where, spoilers for Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, the game you're watching, but, oh, dude, he was just about to go back in the water, too.
We're bullying this guy, more or less.
Well, on land, yeah, absolutely. Is he limping? He is. Heck yeah, nice. I may have carded, but we'll see it through. I believe this game is the first game where there's a character that's kind of tied into the story, where in the story for this game, the Moga chief gets left behind here as a hunter to kind of investigate and protect this area from the Elder Dragon that eventually returns, that being Sideus. And it obviously takes longer than his particular hunting career to actually have that come to pass, but he's still around to guide us down the village hunter path in time for us to take on and slay the Sideus, which it's fresh in my head because I just took down the Sideus for the first time a couple days ago. I mean, I'd done it in the past, but the first time during this playthrough.
My good buddy Kerm asks, are there two camps in Monster Hunter, those who care about the story and those who don't? The answer is yes, and it's at times very, very polarizing. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later today.
I mean, I think that's actually maybe our next topic, Mr. Phalacin.
I think you are... you know what? You're absolutely right, and I think you were doing a really good job of tying into it. Yeah, no, absolutely. There are people who care about the story. I, for one, am content with the amount of story that they have in, say, 4U, 3U world. Even though that, obviously, those are varied, but I think that they're enough. Personally, I think I would like a little bit more, and I liked the characterization of giving characters in Rise names, but I overall don't know how I feel about Rise's story as a whole. I guess my biggest point going into this would be a weak story is worse than no story at all. How do you feel about that?
You think it's worse? So, in this case, we're comparing something like Rise, where there is a story that folks might not think is the strongest, to something like Generations Ultimate, where there is ostensibly basically no story.
I think when I say that, I more mean, like, I would say 3U has, like, sort of sub-stories, but not a story as a whole, would be how I clarify it. Like, there are these threats that we're aware of, and we're like, cool, we're gonna see it when we get to rub our hands together like little flies, but, you know, Rise has sort of this overarching narrative that
of
has,
the
like,
Rampage and Magdamala and everything.
Yeah, it sort of has this whole thing. And I think, depending, your mileage may vary on this. I don't necessarily think it was bad, but I think just as a general rule for storytelling, a weak narrative is worse than no narrative at all. So I'd be interested for them to lean into it a bit harder, but obviously we have something like Monster Hunter Stories, which, you know, we could go to for a bit more of a narrative focus. So I'd be interested to, I don't know. I mean, I'm intrigued on that one, but yeah, I would love to see more characterizations of stuff, because I think that largely, the monsters would be more imposing, like they are in 3U, or like Gormagala got the treatment of, if somehow we got to spend a bit more time with them, but, you know, we don't get to fight them for quite a while. You know, they build it up a bit more, and I think that they are getting close to there.
I think that how I feel about the story is like they've kind of played around with it in different ways. I feel like almost each one of their games, maybe not exactly each one, but each of the ones that you can think of where there's definitively some kind of story to it. In this case, let's reference 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate and Rise and World, because those are some of the ones with the freshest, like, examples of story we can think of. Those are some of the ones with the most visible aspects of stories. I think each one kind of plays things a little bit differently in terms of, like, how big a role the story plays. Is it a big overarching story? Is it one told just through little individual character development of the folks around you? Is it one with a big, like, is it one with a big serious plot? How seriously they take the story? Like, what's the tone? And I feel like that's probably going to hit a little bit differently for different people. Like, for me, I think the sweet spot for me is something like a 3 ultimate or a 4 ultimate thus far. I think I really enjoy those stories because I don't think they take themselves overly seriously, and they don't really like have a whole lot of like emphasis in the game. Like maybe Rises and Worlds have a little more emphasis, I think. To me, I think everyone's going to have a different preference with that. For me, World's story is, and World in general, I'm revisiting it on the weekends right now. I'm going through and I'm streaming World maybe one day a week because I just got a computer that can run World on PC for the first time. And I've wanted to revisit that game for a while. One of my impressions from the 2 streams I've done of that so far, so it's nothing definitive. I've just spent like maybe 4 or 5 hours with the game so far. I haven't played the game in over a year, is that game takes itself very seriously. It is not nearly as, like, there are still examples of the game being lighthearted and goofy, whether it's like the handler eats a lot or like certain side quests have very unique, funny dialogue, but overall, like, I feel like in older Monster Hunter, like in 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate, almost every single dialogue that you go through has at least a little bit of levity to it. A little bit of, like, puns or goofiness or something, depending on the game you play. Obviously, like, Free Me Night, I don't think has that, but 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate are the ones that jump out to me as, like, having a lot of levity written into their translations, and I miss that in Monster Hunter World. And I think Rise is a little bit more, like, back in line with, like, 3U and 4U in terms of that, but it still doesn't have quite the balance of story that I'm personally looking for. I think how I would describe what I really like about 3 Ultimate and 4 Ultimate is that it just introduces some side characters and slowly kind of develops their identity through dialogue in a way that, like, I mean, you can skip past it if you don't like the story at all. You can just mash through the dialogue, and I think you won't really mind. But if you pay attention to it and you read through it, it makes the game pretty fun. There's a lot of really neat little details and fun little things that happen in those bits of localization without getting in the way of the game and taking itself too seriously or throwing too many cutscenes in front of you or just kind of presenting itself in a way that's a little too serious for me or a little too, like, I don't know, dire for me, I guess.
I can absolutely agree with that. And I think the way that 4 Ultimate in particular handles it is there are stakes to, for instance, Gore Magala existing, but it also has this sort of tongue-in-cheek attitude to it where the stakes of Gore Magala feel amplified in that way. And I think that that's really cool. And, you know, a lot of the goofy dialogue, it really does sort of make this, the darker aspects, as it were, feel like they hit a little bit harder, like we were talking about the other day. This is one thing I kind of wish there was more of, but with the Dalamadur armor having all of these like really cool flavor text that implies that there's this cult that basically worships Dalamadur as a god. I think that adding that is just fantastic. I think that it lets me, for me personally, it lets me view Dalamadur in like this whole new light as to how the devs themselves viewed this monster, which was just as this absolutely, like, well, like most Elder Dragons are, but this system changing creature that was just so big that it was like almost beyond comprehension for some people, so much so that they started worshipping. I think that was really cool. So yeah, I can totally agree. World does at times take itself a bit too seriously, and I think that I totally agree. It does have this perfect balance of you could skip the story if you're not getting anything out of it, but if you focus and that's what you want, then yeah, you will probably enjoy it. And I guess I would just like for them to lean into that a little bit harder. Like, they started doing it as early as Freedom Unite with Tigrex, however you want to say it. You know how he knocks you off the cliff at the beginning, and at the end of Low Rank Village, you go and beat him up and take his lunch money. I think that you know, the bones of it are there. Ooh, nibble snuff.
Yeah. Figure we get some of the keys out of the way here.
Good call, good call. I like nibble snuff, but
me too. I'm a fan of the hyper mouth.
Yeah, you know, Komori Tigrex. I've worked out that people. I'm just sorry. I know you've heard this one, but people tend to correct me no matter how I say it. So I just beef it every time now. It makes me smile.
That's fine. I guess Komori had a pretty interesting, had a point that I've seen before, which is that like all of Monster Hunter story is just the same. It's just big threat appears, you have to go hunt the monster, you hunt the monster, you save the day. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about Monster Hunter having similar tropes in terms of its story structure?
I think that as long as that's what they want to lend themselves, like that's the story that they want to tell, then that's fine. That sort of is where a weak story is worse than no story at all kind of lines into. Like, it's a simple story, very easy to follow. You don't need to follow it. Like, most people understand big monster, bad. Like, or at least, you know, that's what you can get at. And I think that that's just fine. So, I kind of like that. The only thing I want, like, out of it a little bit more is they make them seem more imposing. Like, they build them up a little bit more. Because I find it can be like, oh, this guy who knocked me off the cliff at the beginning of the game, that's pretty spicy. I can't wait to fight him. And
hey,
then
Phalacin,
hello?
do you have cool drinks in your inventory right now?
Yes.
Do you?
Yep. Here you go.
Okay. Okay. I'm just curious because you didn't take any from the box. I was just checking.
Oh no, I had 5.
Oh, okay.
Oh, did
that
you not?
makes sense.
I thought you.
No, I've got some. I'm good. I just
Okay.
you left them in the box, and I was like, did he forget?
No. I couldn't take it. My ego couldn't take it. If I forgot them.
Cool.
People
Too cool.
People would say words, and then I would have to like pretend. This place looks familiar. It sure does. Sure does. Kerm, I'm sorry I missed your question. My good friend Kermit asked, also, how many of the games in the franchise are still being updated / serviced? The answer is only Monster Hunter Rise at this point. The rest are basically complete experiences.
Yep.
The rest are basically complete experiences. Yeah. Weak story, worse than no story. Monster Hunter storytelling, pretty effective. Wish that they leaned into a little harder. I don't know how they do it. I think the example I was using was Tigrex. You know, you beat him up, and it to me it always feels just the tiniest bit underwhelming. But that's
I get you.
That's
I think that you look at something like 3 Ultimate or Rise, where it's just kind of like a single. It's kind of similar in that they're like, this is the threat. This is causing the problem. Oh wait, that's not the threat. There's a bigger threat. And I don't think that's awful, but they've definitely done it a couple times now.
Yeah, I think it's expected, and maybe some subversion would be fine.
I think both For You and World, even more so World, do a good job, in my memory at least, both of them, of subverting that just a bit.
Yeah.
For You is varied enough in terms of the way that you progress around the world sightseeing, and World is varied enough in terms of, like, I don't know, just kind of discovering how that ecosystem of the new world works, to where it's not just, there is a threat, go hunt the threat. Like, I mean, that is something that occurs. There is a Nergigante, he is a threat. Then there is a Xenojiva, he is a threat. In 4 Ultimate, you've got a Gormagala, he is a threat. And then there is a Shagaru Magala, he is a threat. But they do a good job of moving you around to different locations and having different plot points occur, so it doesn't just feel like, the threat.
Yeah.
Oh, the next threat. And I think that there's room for them to still experiment with that, even if it still features a monster that you have to go hunt.
Yeah, I personally really like Xenojiva and Shigaru Magala, but I do think that they kind of just dumped them on us. Like, before, like, Shigaru Magala's reveal happens in the dialogue box prior to having to go fight him. And I don't like that necessarily, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Just for me personally, I didn't enjoy that. And I say that as, like, having played 4 Ultimate, like, fairly recently. But, and Zeno felt kind of the same way. I feel like that might have contributed to people not really enjoying Xenojiva and saying, oh, it feels super duper out of place. And I think that they could have really fit him in if they just gave him, like, a little bit of extra flavor before introducing him. I wouldn't know how to do that. I'm not a writer by any stretch of the imagination, but... And I say that as someone who liked him. How do you feel about Zeno in the grand scheme of world? Or have you not gotten back up to him yet?
I haven't gotten to Xeno yet in this current revisit to World. It's been like a couple years. And I think I didn't really particularly enjoy World's story back when I played it, but I also just didn't consume the games nearly as thoroughly. And so I think I'd like to reserve judgment on its story. I think it's kind of easy to meme on some of the things that maybe World kind of stresses dramatically, but doesn't spend a lot of time explaining in the cutscenes or like in the most visible way to the player. Like I think a lot of people like to meme on bioenergy or whatever. Like there are different things you can meme on from that story if you're not paying attention to like all the different parts of the story there. And I've had it like talked through by a friend kind of explaining through some of the things you can learn about that story if you're paying attention to all the different aspects, or if you pay attention to all the dialogue, kind of like I've come to enjoy in some of the games since then. So I don't know. I think you get that.
Sorry,
I think that I'd like to
aim that
form
way.
some fresh opinions on that story. No, you're good. I was looking out for you.
Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts when you do get back up to Zeno.
Okay, thanks. Mizutsune asks in chat, who's with me? Mizutsune, we are doing a 3 Ultimate Unnamed podcast with my friend Phalacin. You can see their stream if you type !multi in the chat.
Hello, nice to meet
And
you.
welcome in. Welcome to anybody who we didn't get a chance to say hello to.
That is a
We're
good
starting
point.
out tonight.
Yeah, hello, Vero. For those of you who don't know my good friend RistrettoChronicles, he consumes Monster Hunter games in a way that is very different to me. So it's very refreshing to sort of see that different approach to the games, and I think that that's really fun. So you should definitely check out and watch his stream. He streams it around this time every single day.
It's about. Hey, my paraphile finally came in handy.
Yes, let's get it. I want to get something with more shells. 2 shells isn't cutting it, but this will do.
You're
for
not
now.
liking that? Okay, we can pick a gun lance and get it for you. That's a good goal for the evening.
Yeah, I'll work it out. I think
Cool.
I think I tend to like the Rathian gun lance. It's always a nice normal shelling.
I think I don't know if you can make it in low rank. I feel like I was going to, and I found out that you can't make it until high rank.
Yeah, I think that is probably accurate.
What a bummer.
Yeah. Komori asks a question that yeah, I am using wide shell, that I often think about, and I think maybe we've discussed this briefly, but how about instead of giving you the flagship like whenever, make it the big bad? And I think that makes me consider flagships just in general. Oh, you're fishing him.
Yep.
Outstanding. I love the fact that you can do that. And I wonder, like, do we treat the flagships differently? Do they contribute to the story in that sort of way that is in a good or a bad way? I don't know. How do you feel about the games having flagships? Do you think it's exciting? Like the new Malzeno guy. I'm finding myself having a hard time getting excited about him, but maybe if he was just introduced partway through Daybreak, I know what Sunbreak. I know what it's actually called. I would perhaps enjoy him more.
I think flagships in general are a pretty interesting concept that most people don't put a ton of thought into. Maybe even Capcom themselves. I don't know. I feel like they do probably more than the average player does, and myself included, put a lot more thought into the positioning, the posturing of a flagship monster.
Yeah,
and to
maybe.
me, I guess it kind of just means, one, that they put a little bit of effort. They put a lot of effort into both the design of the actual like visual design of it, but having it kind of fall in line with the game from a visual design standpoint, or just being a very interesting, solid design monster. But also, it usually tends to be a monster that, I don't know, I feel like they do a good job of pacing throughout the game to be kind of like a thorn in your side, whether it is the first main threat you face during the story, whether it's tied into the story as a big bad. It's clearly something where they want you to kind of have to step it up a little bit each time you get to them, and I think the best flagship monsters in the series do a good job of doing that. They really have different ways of making it a decent challenge. Not an end game like you have to like really harden up, get good to get this fight out of the way, which I think sometimes I kind of feel like I wish flagship monsters were a little tougher in that way, but I think that it's kind of alright that the flagship monsters are going to be someplace in the middle. They're not going to be so untenable for a brand new player that they'll just never be able to do on their own, but it's not going to be something that like an experienced player can just waltz by without even thinking about it. They're going to have to still learn the fight and practice it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's pretty cool. Also, welcome on in, Mizutsune. Yeah, no, I think that the flagship as just like setting the tone for the game is really cool, and I think that that's valuable as well. I don't know, I think that there's a lot that you can say, and I think I'd like to hear. I'm blasting, by the way, but I'm trying not to blast you. Did I get you? No, I did
You did not. No, you're good.
I was convinced I was gonna like hit through him and destroy you.
But I guess I kind of wish that they did have different story roles. Like, I wouldn't mind a flagship being the big bad. I kind of like how Gormagala honestly is postured as sort of the big bad of the story, and then while he himself is not the actual kind of boss of the story, Shagaru is close enough to him that I think I kind of enjoy that. Rather than just having it be another threat that supplants the flagship, having it be a different version of the flagship, or the flagship after a glow up would be kind of neat to me.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know, I would personally be pretty happy if the flagship became the big boss after it like grew up to high rank or master rank. Like, oh man, this is the new most dangerous version we ever saw. Like, he's back and we can't keep him like contained. He's too strong. Like, I like that because I like emphasizing the differences between low rank and high rank and master rank or G rank.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really cool. I think that would be really cool, and I'll touch on that a little bit more later when we're discussing one of our next.
I'm also kind of okay with elder dragons and black dragons and like the larger threats of the Monster Hunter world not necessarily having to be tied into the story. I think I like them a little bit better even when they're just kind of mysterious, strong beings of legend that are out there ready to screw you over. And like in some of the games they're more like that than others. Some of the games they're very integrally linked to the story. Like, oh, this elder dragon's come back and we have to repel it or like something like that. And other ones they're just there and they're scary and big.
And there's so much that I keep going to mention, but it just ties in a lot better to our next topic. But I think I like the story in Monhun. I just wish that maybe there was a little bit more of it. But I think that generally speaking, the thread that they tend to follow in that way is really good. But I can agree that make the flagship a bit more of a big bad. Like, I don't know, it felt so weird to me that they propped Gormagala up so well as like this imposing threat for the entire game. And then, you know, oh, he's coming back to life. Real spooky. And then it's just Shigaru Magala in the next cutscene. Like Shigaru,
That was cool.
You liked it? You liked that he was just sort of dropped in?
I mean, I like that you get rid of gore and then you kind of see things still becoming frenzied and scary, and then you see there's a cutscene of Gormagala kind of molting before you actually are introduced to Shagaru and have to go fight it. There's a cutscene of him kind of molting. You're like, what is that? And then a little bit later you find out what it is. And
Yeah.
so I think it does a little bit better of a job than pacing it just like right before you fight him. I don't particularly mind that.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think I would have liked, you know, 3 quests, and, you know, at one point a character goes, oh no, we're hearing this roaring coming from behind the sanctuary door. And, you know, then, I don't know, maybe we find some hieroglyphs that are like, oh, this thing awakens, because what? Shigaru, it's like a cycle, right? It comes back every 100 years or something like that.
I wouldn't be able to tell you the specific of that, but I do know that it's a Gormagala that's molting. That's what I can tell you about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I wish that the Elder Dragons and the Black Dragons had this more. I do agree that it's completely fine for them to be, you know, not necessarily tied into the story, but I think a lot of their power would be more within your mind, rather. Like, I find it hard to look at Kushala as this big old threat anymore. I wish that he seemed more imposing, and I don't know how they would do that necessarily.
How about a freshly molted Kushala? Would you be scared of a freshly skin shredded Kushala? We've had rusted. What about like a silver Kushala?
I think it would be cool if they built it up to me. Like, let's say, you know, I load into the game and, like, you know, halfway through, at the end of low rank, we're fighting this, like, old, haggard Kushala Daora, and it's, like, disappointing because it's like, oh, man, this is these Elder Dragons, and it's, like, this rusted Kushala Daora, you know, his movements all jilted and stiff, and then at the end of this quest, he just busts out, and then is like 5 billion times more agile, then flies off, and then we don't fight him until like the entry to G rank. I think something like that, because that would be like a rank's worth of build up in my mind, and I think that would make me like, oh, because Kushala is a really cool design. It would make me excited.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could probably point at as a whole and just be like, I think that they could work at getting better at building up to specific threats and then not immediately toppling them in a way that feels unsatisfying. I think that they've done that enough times in a row that we could consider it maybe a slight deficiency. Or like just something that they could clearly change up the next time.
Yeah, but also by like that same token, I do understand if they're just like, well, Elder Dragons, they're not necessarily all that calamitous, but they're a step above like what we're used to. How do I like to build up for Sedeus? I think with Sedeus they do a really good job. But I shan't say too much. For fear of spoiling my buddy wrist.
No, you're good. I just fought Sedeus.
Ah, okay. What do you think of Sedeus?
I've fought him before in the past, so he wasn't anything super new to me. But I enjoy his fight. I think he was neat. I did him with Gunlance, and he went down pretty easily. I think it's interesting that he's one of the last appearances of the traditional repel system in the games. Like, after that, you don't have a whole lot of examples of the repel system again. There is some in the very end of 4U's G rank, but in general, you don't get a whole lot of opportunities to fight a monster that has the potential to take multiple hunts, which I think is an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, I can agree. 100%. I wonder how they could implement that also.
I think that they could revisit it, honest. I think that they could do a good job of building up a monster where, like, this thing is so strong, you can't clear this in a single hunter. You have to take this on over a couple days. Maybe it goes through different phases. Maybe you have to track it to different areas. I think there's a lot of things that they could play around with that in a way that would make it super interesting and fun and unique. And I think that'd be really cool, whether it's for a flagship or for a big bad. Like, I'd be super cool with that, or I would be super down with that. I don't necessarily need the big bad at the end of the game to be some gigantic siege monster that I have to take down in a certain way. And I guess when I say that, I guess you could argue that some of the siege mechanics in Monster Hunter World are similar to that. Like, but I don't know. That doesn't feel the same way to me. That feels, I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same to me as the old school repel system. We could talk about why, but it's been a long time since I've actually fought Safi or Kolv, so it's not something I should probably talk about super intently right now.
Yeah, I think the siege system is in the spirit of that, and I agree that, like, with some work, like, that is effectively what the siege system would become. But yeah, I think it would be way cooler if, you know, it's like a 4-part hunting thing, and it's like, oh, we need to do all of this, and it, you know, it would be really taxing. It'd be really tough, and you could, like, do it in over multiple play sessions. And it's like Kolv as this, you know, in her golden armor form, like the initial thing. She's slow. She dances around, and then phase 2 is like when she sheds her armor, and so she's a bit quicker, a bit more tough. And then I don't know what they do for the rest, but hey, you know, I'm not on the payroll.
I guess, would you say that you'd appreciate those siege mechanics more if each phase was more fleshed out and maybe its own sort of self-contained hunt rather than just being kind of things you push past?
Yeah, because it feels like I'm restarting the same thing, but I just get a progress bar. I would like more feedback visually in-game that I'm doing something of substance. Like,
that's part of what I was going to say about it, but I don't want to really commit to it. Like I said, I haven't played those hunts in so long now. But I think part of it for me is, like, I don't particularly enjoy the feedback of, like, oh, I reached reward tier 6. Like, no, I just want to go out and hunt the monster and have to go to different areas or fight it in different ways and know that I'm getting further through that, not necessarily because a little golden progress bar is telling me that I've reached the next tier of drop rewards.
Yeah, and I think that in general, like, Monster Hunter would really benefit from that sort of organic storytelling. Like, the monsters are very, you know, they're very special, and they could be more special, I guess is my opinion. And they could be all their own self-contained story, not from the traditional sense of, like, you'd read in a book, but visual storytelling, it can be just as impactful, if not more, depending on context, I find. Like, I think that would be real neat. So yeah, I think having these sort of big siege monsters take a couple of hunts with multiple phases and visible damage, or I think we're kind of just blending the deviants and maybe siege mechanics in a way, but I think obviously those two lend themselves really, really well to blending nicely.
I hadn't even thought about deviants, but I guess when you think about it, deviants and guild quests are sort of similar in that as you progress through those quests, the monsters that you're fighting kind of change. And I guess honestly, the old school repel quests didn't really change as you went through them so much as it was just you got the sense that you were really wearing down this monster because it took multiple attempts sometimes depending on your gear and the scaling of the quest. And I think if you combine the quest changing over time with the monster feeling like it really does take multiple sessions of a good amount of time to wear it down, I don't know, I think that'd be pretty sweet. I think it'd be something pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know, I just think more feedback visually or from a gameplay loop perspective would be really, really valuable in that sense. And it could just be like, even if it is just you return to the village, it's like, Kulftaroth, you know, phase 2. They call it something different, but you know, I think that would be a really interesting way to handle it, and it would breathe new life into the sort of some of these monsters and make them really exciting. Because, you know, you'd be like, oh man, like sometimes you say to your friends like, oh man, phase 1, it's sort of slow, it's whatever, but it makes phase 2 so much more cool. Like, this thing busts out of its armor and it starts dancing around and doing spin kicks or whatever. But I
think for me, I'd appreciate if a lot of the Elder Dragons were given that treatment. Like I know that they used to be like that. It used to be like that in like 2nd generation, where when you fought a Kushala or a Teostra, unless you really were packing gear that was really strong, you'd probably have to repel them once or twice before you could slay them. And I think that even if their fights don't change a whole lot, I think I'd really appreciate a system, maybe not just wholesale like that, whole cloth lifted from old games like that, but I'd appreciate something like that to make Elder Dragons feel a cut above the regular monster in the newer games again. But I don't know, they might not really like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think something to make the monsters feel more imposing. Like, obviously with like role-playing games, and obviously Monster Hunter is not a traditional role-playing game, but that sense of power that you get, that sense of progression is really, it's a very tricky balance. But I think making Elder Dragons absolutely stomp you into the ground, make you feel inadequate, just for you to come back and, you know, you'll struggle and you'll eke out that first victory, and you will feel like you earned it. And let me tell you, playing Freedom Unite, I absolutely felt that with Lunastra. Like, I just barely slayed like a Lunastra, and it felt really cool. After having like repelled her a few times, I was like, I can totally agree with what you're saying. And I think that if they tweak that system, they've got something.
Maybe to make it change over time, to make it more interesting, doesn't just make it feel like you're just doing the same quest ad nauseum.
Yeah, I think that there's a few different ways they could approach it, and a few different ways even within the same game, within the same system. Like, some monsters could change and have different phases. Not everything needs to have that. But I think that would be really, really, really cool to have these systems where and I think that obviously contributes to the ecosystem feeling more alive, making these things feel more like, you know, like, hey, I know you, I've seen you before. Not just, I'm fighting grumpy Molten Tigrex who takes an hour to get going, you know. In phase 2, he's raring to go. He's angry. He's got a scar on his eye. And I think that level of like moment-to-moment visual storytelling is really cool. And they already have it with the broken parts system.
And the rage.
Yeah. But I think that they could have... I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Nice stagger. You're fine. I was overcommitting to something, so I appreciated it. Both the times you've blown me away tonight have been extremely well timed.
It's completely intentional then. And Mizutsune, yeah, those sound like really cool ideas. Forgive me for taking a bit to get to them. But
I guess this is not a planned topic. I'm just kind of throwing it in here so we can continue to enjoy this Giganox hunt before we get to our next hunt. But I guess we're talking about some things that have felt really satisfying to us, both for us and folks in the chat. What are some of the things that you personally remember being the most satisfying challenges you had to overcome in Monster Hunter that felt really good? Not just like, this is what I think the hardest was, but what were some of the most satisfying moments for you in Monster Hunter that you can remember?
It's gonna sound kind of funny, but my most recent playthrough of 3U, the one that I did last year when I first met you, I struggled with a Duramboros because it just had too much health and I kept on timing out. And the time that I beat it, I had like 30 seconds left on the clock. You know, I was stressed out, a little frustrated because I'd fought him so many times over the past couple of days. Like, you know, it took me 2 or 3 attempts to secure that bag, to secure the Lidar Stubski. And then I got it, and I was like, yeah, I did that. So I think I enjoyed that particular challenge. But other than that, I think seeing all of the monsters you hear about before even starting Monster Hunter was really, really satisfying to me, and enjoying it. Like, you hearing about Zin and then actually getting to fight Zin. But what about you?
I think one of the ones that's most satisfying for me in recent memory was, I was playing through 4 Ultimate last year, and it was the first time that I'd actually really gone through and tried to clear every quest, like, when I came to them. I hadn't really done a whole lot of games where I'd played through all the quests before that anyways, but even if I had done that, I'd maybe picked and choose and like come back to quests with stronger gear or like when I felt more ready for them. Last year was the first time I made myself just sit there and only complete quests before moving on. And there were a couple quests at the end of 4 Ultimate's high rank that were very obviously designed to challenge groups of 4 people at the end of 4, like base Monster Hunter 4, when that game was only out in Japan. They were very clearly designed around that. And they were really hard. Like, they were really hellishly hard quests. Like, gold and silver, both super scaled up, in the tower top at the same time. And I don't necessarily let myself use all the items in the game. I don't always use flash bombs or smoke bombs. We might get to that a little bit later on tonight. But I didn't let myself use some of those tools, and so I really had a hard time clearing through some of these quests. And I honestly, for a while, across the various challenges, some of them were like multi-monster hunts like that. Some of them were just really...
Nice
dude,
dunk.
that dunk. Holy crap. Some of them were just really tough challenges, like a really tough, like, Kushala Deora. And I honestly didn't think I was going to get through some of them. And I did. Oh, no, the poison.
Yeah, I died to poison.
I tripped him again.
That's
But
fine.
getting through those high rank quests in order without really kind of compromising on what kind of gear I wanted to use and what challenge I wanted from it felt really good to me. Really satisfying. I might also die.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same way, you know, on that note, like, doing a lot of armorless hunts in Rise. I felt the same way, like, armorless Valstrax and armorless Veterans Gala nearly broke me, but I am so satisfied I did them, like, at content. Like, I didn't come back in with a G-rank weapon. I didn't just sort of, flub it off and be like, oh yeah, you know, I'll just use a bow gun or whatever. I was like, Sword and Shield is my main weapon. This is the one that I want to do it with. I've practiced. I think, genuinely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it took me over multiple streams, but like over a day to do Armorless Veterans Gala. And when I finally got it, it was like this sense of relief. Like, I did it. You know, a better hunter could have done it in a shorter amount of time. You know, someone more familiar, like someone who can think outside of the box a little bit better than me.
Yep,
probably...
I always feel that about when I do those sorts of things.
Yeah, so like part of me felt guilty because I was like, I took so long. This took so much of my time. But also, on the other hand, like, I did it, and
yeah.
it took so much out of me, but it was done, and it was like a 38-minute hunt.
Yep.
Like at the
yep,
at the
most
very
of my
end
favorite
of it.
hunts have been like 38-minute hunts, Phalacin.
Yeah.
And I totally get that same feeling. I'm sure other folks in chat do too. Sometimes you feel like, man, this thing that was the most satisfying to me, I'm bad at this game. Like, you just look at that thing that was satisfying to you and you go, I'm bad. But man, that was satisfying.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to do those armless hunts, and I think that even though I'm not like I'm not even a challenge run kind of guy normally, but it just sounded like something it would be fun to try, and now it's like it's pushing me to actually learn everything that I have to learn about this monster. Like in Rise, I can do a Rajang without actually eating a hit now, and I think that there's plenty of people that can say that through, you know, be it one way or another, but you know, doing it with Sword and Shield, like you barely get any staggers, like learning exactly how many hits it takes before you like can Wyvern ride him or whatever. I thought that was something to me. Like that was a big deal. And now it's become sort of a joke. Like, you know, you can actually hit Rajang 3 times before he roars and you go into Whirlwind in Rise. That's information you can take to the bar to use to pick up, I would say. But yeah.
What do you pick up at the bar with that? Hot speedrun clear times?
No. You know, guys, gals, or non-binary pals. You just walk up to a hot piece at the bar and say, hey baby, did you know you can hit Rajang 3 times before you have to roll to iframe his roar? And they're like, oh, tell me more. It's a great icebreaker,
Yeah.
great conversation
You know,
starter.
Phalacin, I know just the bar for you. It is called the Capcom Cafe. It is in Japan. I think your style of pickup line would do really well there.
I disagree. I no one's that nerdy. But maybe. There's someone out there. There's someone for everyone.
I think at the Capcom bar you might find somebody. You might find your one true Rajang speedrun love.
Is this bad pickup lines? I don't think so, Ducklord Quackers. Try it. I mean, you know, I could try that one on my girlfriend and see what she has to say.
I think she'd be impressed with you. It might not be for the reason you think, but she might be impressed with you.
I would say so.
I'm sorry, Phalacin. I must quack in the middle of our stream. Quack,
okay.
Because Duckwood Quackers has entered the chat. Welcome, Duckwood Quackers, to our stream.
But it's true. All of these things are like, they're cool pieces of information. And I think that I'm just poking the air above Giganox threateningly. I think that, if, you know, you're not using it to pick up a hot piece at the bar, I can at least tell you, and you're like, huh, next time you fight Rajang and Rise with Sword and Shield, you know, you might be able to give it a try, and you'll say, oh, he's right. Oh, he's right. It could be the new, how to find a reptile in Mortal Kombat. And if you don't know what I'm talking about exactly, then that reference... Oh, okay.
I don't.
In one of the original Mortal Kombat games...
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Longsword's bad.
I'm sorry for you. I think in the original Mortal Kombat games, you can fight Reptile by, like, performing a fatality as, like, a reindeer flies past the moon, which only appears every 6 stages or something. I don't know. It's just, like, some obscure piece of information that's kind of cool to know.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. But...
I'm just slowly dying of poison like you were before.
Oh, yeah?
We should have brought more antidotes.
Oh, he's warring me!
I'll help you!
I'm mashing. I'm mashing all the buttons.
So am I. You're alive.
I am alive. Let's get it.
And by let's get it, you mean let's get poisons.
I never get poisoned. You know Komori? Komori says, EX deviants get pretty spicy, but the moment you finish the hunt, plus rather than seeing each level as tedium, each level lets you learn about the mon a little bit more. I personally found, and this is my own fault, because I did deviants like 1 to 15, I'm gonna die again. 1 to 15, like, in a sitting. I don't know. I didn't really feel too happy about it.
I'll try not to triple us here.
Thank you. Thank you. Just let me double us. Mikey,
Well, ask how it's going. It's going pretty well. I feel like we talked about some nice things so far.
You've done it!
We didn't triple on Giganox. Even though we didn't bring enough antidotes.
It's going well, my friend. How are you? It's very good to see you. Uchi, don't slander me, okay? Okay? I didn't card it all in the first hunt, so I'm making up for it now. But yeah, I just have no resources presently, so makes it a bit harder.
It's really not fair. I've been sitting here just grinding this save file for like the longest time imaginable in low rank, and meanwhile Phalacin's just been playing it when we were podcasting.
If I was respectful, I would do this off stream, and I will. I'm gonna be respectful.
I just think you can use you have other 3 ultimate characters, don't you?
Yep. I do.
I think you can in good stead use those. You just gotta drop down your gear whenever we're hunting something in high rank or something.
You make a good point. But also, I'm on this wagon now.
You're like attached to it?
Yep.
Okay, that's fair.
I like this dude. I like the cut of his jib.
I figured. Welcome, Kinesis, and other folks who are just joining us here. Alright, nice. Giganox materials. Alright, well, Phalacin. I think, are you ready for us to head to our challenge for the evening?
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm going to run to the bathroom. When I get back, we're going to go ahead, and Phalacin and I will be removing our armor, picking our best weapon we have access to, and trying to naked hunt a Rathalos in the volcano. Because I think that will make for some interesting content.
I think...
I'll be right back.
So we're doing this in lieu of a more visual segment, which we've been doing for most of the casts, I think. Been pretty fun. But I guess Riss has left you with the creepy uncle at the table, so I'm going to like demon grab your arm as older family members do so that you can't run away from them and ask you, chat, how's your day? How are you guys feeling? How are we feeling about the topic so far? Do you guys have any input? I'd love to hear it. Ooh. Hello, helpful citizen. What can I... talk about Fortnite. Did you see that they added Jill and Chris to Fortnite? And folks who like Resident Evil don't understand that that's okay, because it doesn't change the games at large. So I think that's fine. Ooh. Yo, Soul, how are you? A good topic. Maybe not for this podcast. I don't know. When Risk gets back, I'll ask him how he feels about if they were to add the Monster Hunter to if they were to add the Monster Hunter to Fortnite. I think his answer will be ambivalence. Yeah, like, it's not gonna make me play Fortnite anytime soon, but I'm not mad. Like, as a long-term Resident Evil fan, I'm not, like, upset that it's there. It is just whatever. Chris was not in 3. Some Rathalos armor dude, you reckon? A DBD skin? That would be interesting to see the Trapper. 'Tis the season, though. 'Tis the season. What can we make here? Monster Hunter 3U is always really good. I'm also doing a podcast with my fantastic buddy, my lovely co-host, RistrettoChronicles. So please, click the multi-link, go check him out, click the follow button, give him all of your love, because he's a good egg. So very albumin-y. Oh yeah, Mizu? Which one? Is it perchance Final Fantasy 14? Shrieking? I like parts of Shrieking. I think that Shrieking Legiana could have just been Legiana at Master Rank, though. In my humble opinion. In saying that, I don't really care about the distinction. I'm just saying that's what it could have been. Albion Online. I don't know what they'd do for Monster Hunter. It would just be a skin, though. In a way, they could just release like Fortnite as it was, and call that the Resident Evil event, because it was originally meant to be like a zombie defense game. In my IMO.
I'm back. Hi.
Welcome back. We talked about Fortnite.
I see that.
How would you feel about a Fortnite Monster Hunter crossover?
I don't care.
Yeah, see, that's what I said. That's what I said your response was gonna be, and I feel exactly the same way. They recently
told folks, like, even I was kind of hoping for a little bit that they were gonna put Monster Hunter in Smash, just because I think that'd be cool, and I kind of vaguely like Smash Bros. But then, as Smash Bros. Ultimate wore on, and like more characters got added to it, and I played it less and less, I was like, you know what? Even if they added Monster Hunter, I don't care. I don't play that game. Like, it doesn't matter to me. If they put Fortnite in Monster Hunter,
different beast.
I probably wouldn't like that very much. I didn't really like any of the like cross-series crossovers that they've done, but I just don't really like other series that much, so I don't know. Whenever there's a crossover with other series, when it's like outside of the scope of just like, here's some neat armor, or like, here's a neat weapon inspired by this other series you can use if you want, it's like a joke. I don't know.
How are these guys putting Sonic the Hedgehog in for a third time? Riddle me that one. Sonic the Hedgehog, third time. How have they done it? These absolute mad lads. Alright, I'm getting nude.
Me too. Hang on.
Let's go.
I wish we had the double Wrath quest, but I think we have to do all the other keys. And it would probably go long. It would probably go too long during our cast.
Yes, regrettably, I have to be a little bit shorter on this one today. I apologize for that.
That's okay. Like I said earlier, I'll take the extra sleep. I'm like constantly depriving myself of healthy sleep, so any excuse to go to bed early is kind of nice.
Man, I've been going to bed at like 9 p.m. and waking up at like 4:30, 5 in the morning recently, and it is nice. Why did I like the Netflix Monster Hunter movie? I think that's actually a really good tie into the story topic. I liked it for what it was. Would I give it like an Oscar or, you know, an award? Probably not. Did I enjoy the 58-minute runtime that I spent watching it with other folks? Yeah. Was it a little bit dinky and poorly animated? Yeah. Did I enjoy it? Yes. I think that was that was pretty cool. But yeah, Smash.
I had to mute there for a second.
Ah, no worries.
Had to sneeze.
I wanted to hear it.
Sorry, I don't sneeze into my microphone.
I sneeze almost constantly.
I feel like I've even heard you sneeze, where like you mentioning that can conjure up images for me of you sneezing.
That's fair. Uchi might be able to corroborate that claim that I sneeze often. Alright, I'm scared for this hunt. I'm actually gonna need to steal some potions from... Otherwise,
Can't you buy them at the shop?
No, I can't buy them. She doesn't sell them to me. That's what I tried to say at the beginning. She will not sell them to me.
What a loser. Can't even buy... Oh,
Wait, I can buy them now, because I did the urgent. She wouldn't sell them to me till I did the urgent. Alright, before... This was true before the other quest, alright? I'm not a liar. Don't laugh at me. Please stop laughing. All of you stop laughing right now. That's not acceptable to me. It's not fair, and I'm telling my dad. But also,
okay.
I have potions.
Okay. You should bring some cool drinks.
Thank you. I had intended.
Alright, so you're bringing your trusty Lagomberador.
It's all I've got.
And I'm bringing the iron bagpipes, because they're the only hunting horn I've got.
In an ideal world here, I have sword and shield, because I'll be able to get out of the way. So, here I am, like, praying to Gog Marzios that, the shield does enough.
Dude, this is totally... Okay, so we just made a world character. That's, like, kind of a grumpier old dude who I said I was referencing from 3 Ultimate. I haven't looked at our 3 Ultimate character in a while. This is, like, the same dude. He's got, like, the same haircut and everything. This guy's got... He's got a little more facial hair these days when he's in 3 Ultimate. But in World, like, it's the same guy.
Do you yearn to be a silver fox? Like, are you excited for... I don't know.
Silver hair?
25 years from now, yeah. When you're like, you got a couple of crow's feet, and you know, your beautiful silver streak through your hair. What do you reckon?
I want my hair to be silver really badly. I've thought about bleaching my hair and dyeing it silver before.
Yeah, I personally...
It's too much, it'd be too much work.
I personally, like, you know, I did the whole emo thing. I was the alt kid when I was younger. And to an extent, I kind of live that way, I just don't dress that way. I would dye my hair if it weren't so dark, because I've learned my lesson with hair dye. When I was about 14 years old, I dyed some blue streaks through my hair, which was a lot curlier when I was younger, I might add. So I wasn't even doing the emo thing right. And as time went on, they gradually turned into this disgusting moldy green color. Like, kids were making fun of me, teachers were making fun of me. I got a haircut at one point, and then I just had, like, green streaks through a mullet. I think my year 8 photo was that. It was just dreadful. It was just dreadful.
Yeah.
I, like... So never again. This is just...
I dyed my hair to be a darker red once. Like a mahogany.
Sounds lovely. Especially when you put it like that.
It was not super noticeable.
Still sounds lovely.
Like, there was a video that my chat knows of me, like, making fun of Call of Duty when I was, like, 14, and I'm, like, commentating over the top of my friend playing Call of Duty and, like, making fun of it. My hair at that point was, like, a weird dark red. Like a dark red.
It's outstanding. Outstanding.
I'm just filling that in for my chat, I guess.
To be a boy again. That's all I got. To be an awkward youth.
I thought he was gonna be here.
Yeah, I don't know where he's gonna hang out, but you know, we'll bump into him. Alright.
Yeah, we'll find him. So, Phalacin, how do you feel about naked hunts in general?
As someone who does lots of them, I really enjoy them. I think that they force you to learn the monster in a way, that is very different. It's a different kind of hunt. It's a different experience. And I am all about being given the tools to change my experience with stuff.
Uchi's asking if I'm a redhead. I'm not a redhead. Sorry, I'm just describing the shade of red it was. Uchi. It was not a light red. It was a darker red.
Oh,
Uchi was concerned that my hair was red. I don't know. My hair is like a tiny bit of like more reddish tint to it, but not much.
Yeah,
I'm not a redhead.
I think when I think of you, I'm like, oh yeah, Rist has beautiful red hair. But
You think so?
then I see you, and it's like, no, it's just very light brown.
I guess my freaking beanie covers my hair most of the time. My hair is also disgusting 9 out of 10 days, so I don't know.
Jumbo.
You're telling me the guy who sits in a chair and plays video games for 4.5 hours a week, or 4.5 hours each day, doesn't keep the most amazing hair care?
He's here. My boy, he's here. Jumbo.
Oh.
I'm sorry, I have to put this out there. We're not discussing the sexual symbolism of Silent Hill right now. This is a Monster Hunter podcast. But you know, I'll posit this one to you, Rist. What do you think of the sexual symbolism within Silent Hill?
Whack.
Yep, whack. That sounds about correct. Cool. I'm glad that we've covered this topic. Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh, he's down in the forest. Okay, here I come.
He's coming to steal my Ubez. Yeah, Lakin, it's good to see you.
I feel like whack is a pretty safe answer
Whack?
about anything Silent Hill.
You know, yeah, very true. Very
Oh god,
true.
these poor Aptonoth, dude. Oh god.
I have
clocked one by accident.
I have some good news. He does not one-shot you necessarily.
Oh, it is good. How'd you find that out? Shoot.
By minding my own business.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. You're right.
Ow. But yeah,
Good stuff.
Armor Ascent, I love. I put a whole bunch of them up on my YouTube channel. I did all of Generations Ultimate's Village without armor. Except for the Congalala quest. I put on full G rank gear and absolutely went to town on that boy. Yeah, you think that I'm gonna give that dude the time of day? No. He does not deserve my attention.
What if Ryozo himself spawned in, just popped in front of you, in game or in person, and was like, I need you to hunt this Congalala with the respect that you would treat other monsters, Phalacin?
Mizu, thank you for the follow. I would politely decline.
Would you really?
Yeah, like, you know.
What if he was like, if you do this, I'll take out Rathalos?
I didn't want Rathalos to be taken out. I think that's gonna be my gag now. And I even said this before anyone says anything. They don't need to take out Rathalos. I just think it would be fun to get a game of all new monsters, and Rathalos happens to be in all of them. I like Rathalos. Put it on my forehead. I'm a Rathalos enjoyer. What's my favorite monster? Zamtrios. That's my favorite monster. However, I can understand why it sounded the way that it did. But also, I was stupid last fortnight, and I indulged in arguing, which was not conducive to me getting my points across. So for that, I'm sorry. But
You're good.
But
I don't think you need to apologize.
I like Rathalos. I just think that at some point, there will come a time where if they keep all of his moves and don't change him too much, he will retain first gen jank. That is my honest to goodness opinion on Rathalos. I think, do they need to keep the spirit of these monsters alive in their first gen incarnation? That's all.
I don't really think they do anymore, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I did come away thinking about that. But yeah. Also, you know what, Fish? If they agreed to remove Congalala for me doing that quest, I still wouldn't do it. Because I understand that there are people who like Congalala, and I don't want him to go away.
Aww, that's sweet of you.
But
Thank you.
also, I hate him and delete him from existence forever.
Okay.
It's ooh, felt the wind off that one.
I see that.
Sheesh. Oh yeah. Congalala, he's stinky, but he has to be someone's favorite monster.
He probably is. I don't want to meet that person necessarily. But
I do. I do.
I'm gonna be doing a naked hunt sometime soon. I think. I'm doing in honor of our friend Rosianna. I'm doing a naked G rank purple Gypsaros with hunting horn in freebie night.
Very nice. Yeah, Gypsaros.
I don't know when I'm doing that. Sometime soon. But just in honor of them, because they're a cool speedrunner, and they're on a rough grind for a run right now in Portable Third.
I've been following their runs along a little bit. They tend to stream in my morning, so
Nice.
you know, I'll get up in the morning, start working on stuff, chuck on a couple of streams. It's been nice, like, having to work at the computer as much as I have been lately, because I've just been able to consume a lot more streams. But I'm a big jerk lurker, so one day I'm gonna get the fattest amount of channel points in your channel, and you'll actually add a reward, and I'll be able to redeem it.
What are you talking about? There are rewards.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Waste 10,000 points. Waste 5,000 points.
Yeah, man.
Your favorite monster, Mizutsune 501? I'm gonna guess your favorite monster might be Congalala, but I don't really have anything to go off, I'm afraid.
We need to stop fighting this dumb dude so close to the zone. I've jumped through this zone like 4 times now.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He's a fun guy.
Alright, he's leaving now. Shadow Upon the Tempest asked why we're doing this naked. I think just to be entertaining and just to have fun.
Yeah, like, why not?
We were gonna do a double. Originally, this was supposed to be a callback to one of my first naked quests ever that I ever did in Monster Hunter. Was a triple Rathian. Back when I first started streaming, I did a triple Rathian in this game, naked. I think I did it with Switch Axe. Yeah, I did.
Sorry for not.
And we were gonna call back to. It's okay. We were gonna call back to that with a Rathian and Rathalos quest, but we haven't unlocked it yet. So we're just doing a Rathalos naked instead. And I think that's funny because Phalacin clearly loves Rathalos so much.
You don't put me on that, like, I don't actually like Rathalos train. I like Rathalos. I'll change my Twitch username to Rathalos Enjoyer.
I think I would like that.
No.
Then we could call it the Rathalos Enjoyer Cast.
You know what? That's the name. Rathalos Enjoyer Cast.
No, it's not.
Okay. Oh, is it not?
Nope, I don't like it that much.
Yep, that's fair.
I don't like him that much.
That's fair.
Someday we'll come up with a name.
One day. And, you know, when we do, it'll make all of the weeks that we didn't have a name, feel a lot more impactful.
This dumb cat stole my first statement.
Yeah,
The Monster Hunter Enjoyers Cast isn't bad, actually.
Congalala not Enjoyer Cast. I like Lassanid. They're my favorite. Also,
Lassie is your favorite?
Yep. Also,
Good choice.
Mizutsune 501. Amatsu Bussin. Kids would say.
I don't know what that means.
Hello, Python. You don't know Bussin?
No.
It's the hot new thing that the youth are saying. They say, oh, you know that plate of ribs is bussin'. It means good. I think.
It means good?
Yeah.
Does it mean anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, I could maybe infer, but I need it.
IRB could just putting us on blast and saying that last time we said we'd have a name by this week.
You know what? I'll take that. You know what? IRB Goodyear? I'm sorry. It's
You know what happens between then and now?
What?
Nothing.
I mean, I did try and think of some, but
Me too.
Here's the funny thing. I did a podcast in a different life. And it had a name that was similar enough to another one, and despite the fact we only got like 20 views per episode, it still got hit with a cease and desist. So, you know, in the spirit of not allowing history to repeat itself, I think the Gathering Hub podcast, the non-legally distinct from the Hunters Hub podcast, might not have gone over so well.
I don't think the Hunters Hub podcast would like sue us or something. I hope not. Maybe they're litigious. Who knows?
I think the folks on that one may lawyer up.
I doubt it.
Yeah. Well.
Oh. Dude, that 53 defense in 3U is carrying us right now so hard.
It's true. Also, my epic gamer skill is carrying me in 3U right now.
That's you.
I don't know. Doesn't need a name. You know what? It does need a name. Right.
I liked Monster Hunter Enjoyers. I would call it Monhan Enjoyers Cast.
Monhan Enjoyers Cast? Alright, delete whoever posted that message. That's the name now. And all of you have to wipe it from your memory. I came up with it. Hey, Rist, would you like to call this the Monster Hunter Enjoyers podcast? Do you think that would be a good idea?
I would like to call it the Monster Hunter Enjoyers Cast.
The Honoru Enjoyers podcast? Silence.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing is, chat, you have to stop coming up with good names, because if you come up with those good names, I'm not going to use them. I know that you're going to...
Why?
Because they're going to take my fat stacks and my diamond ring when we become so
We're not gonna
affluent.
make fat stacks off our podcast.
They will. They will. They're gonna take my cat's food away from his little belly. And obviously, this is a bit.
The beans cast. I like that. You
This
want to do the beans cast with me?
Beans cost? Yeah, why not? I like beans. I'm a bean enjoyer.
No, I'm sorry. I can't risk another thing in my life being mistaken for baked beans instead of coffee beans.
Imagine Rathalos slathered in baked beans, though. That's Parsec mech to me.
I'd rather not. Wait, Parsec Mech is a Rathalos slathered in baked beans?
Yeah, I've explained this. He's a bean dragon. He sits in a dimly lit cage.
Oh.
Cave,
No,
rather.
but wait,
Covered in baked beans. They are baked beans. Because that's what I first thought of, and now, well, you know. Beans are in the eye of the beholder. The bean holder. Right. Imagine being roared at.
Surely next time we'll think of a name.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a name by next time. Absolutely. Oh, I'm coming!
Don't worry about it, chat. Hey, thank you!
Being given like 30 options? Stop
Yeah.
giving options then! I'm not taking the options if you give them. Hope that we come up with it independently. I can't. I cannot. Coffee cost? That exists. It's like the Drawfee cost. We would definitely get sued. It's one letter away.
The Drawfee? Wait, what's a Drawfee?
Drawfee is a YouTube group that they draw stuff. They're like a conglomerate of artists, and their thing is that they like draw things from memory. Excuse me, Rathalos. What is the range on flash bombs? Because I feel like they burn my retinas even if they're on like the other side of the map. But Rathalos, he just blinks when I use them or something.
He has really good reflexes. He eye flamed your flash bomb.
How dare he? Parsec, you're my little baked bean dragon.
Hello, Reapsies.
Intellectual property isn't real property. Yeah, well, like I said, I've already been on a podcast that received the cease and desist.
So, let me get this straight. You know of podcasts. You've been on 2 different podcasts. You've never watched a podcast. Listened to a podcast.
Like, let me tell you. When I say I was on, like, a previous podcast, that's, like, sort of... It's truthful because it existed. But also, I was there to do sound, and they needed a guest, like, 4 times, and there were 6 episodes, and it got shut down. It was, like, tail end of high school.
Did you speak on said podcast?
Yeah, but it was terrible.
But you were still part of 2 podcasts now. You've never listened to one?
I'm sure, like, you know, I'm sure
like
if I
Anthony
listen...
Fantano has like a music podcast you'd love, I'm sure.
I'm
I don't
sorry,
even know if he has one, but
I'm
he
sorry
does.
to tell you, but I disagree with Anthony Fantano and how he speaks on music a lot. So no, I wouldn't enjoy that, but...
How do you know? You might really like it.
I've listened to his music reviews. I don't like how he talks about things sometimes. I respect him and all that he's accomplished, but I disagree with his stuff. And I think it can be... Moving on. Falstretto, see, you can't steal Falstretto because that's what we call the stuff sometimes. But also, you know, that sounds like a foreign language.
No, we're just really picky about the name. We're gonna get there. I want something that's related to Monster Hunter, and that's kind of catchy, but it's not like super generic or overdone, but also not too hyper specific to a certain game.
Yeah.
So that if we decide to play a different game, it wouldn't be relevant anymore.
Look, here's the thing. We absolutely will play a different game. 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, invariably. So, the name is gonna be... Sometimes people come up with it instantly, sometimes you're like us and you take a little bit longer, but that's okay. That's okay. I hope that the name isn't a...
No, I want it to be Monster Hunter themed, Gucci. I want it to be Monster Hunter themed, but not as generic as just like the Gathering Hub cast.
Yeah.
It has to be the right balance of like not hyper specific, but still Monster Hunter related and catchy enough where like someone can remember it. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a weird balance. We're gonna get there eventually. Someday there will be a name. I promise.
I wish that the Hell Hunters had a different name. because
Me
it would
too.
work.
They
It
were
would
like-
work so well.
If they were like the Hunt and Hell Hunters, I don't know. If they were something other than haughty, then it would be perfect.
Yeah.
Especially because we briefly called ourselves a different version of their name. God darn it.
The background. I just find it funny. I just find it funny.
We can call
Oh.
it the bonk bros.
I still, you know, they'll still lawyer up.
Yeah, they probably will.
That-
They'd be really worried about
it'd be-
these two jerks on Twitch.
It would be a story. It would be a story. I also like how you're like, we're not gonna make fat stacks. I know, probably correct, but also, Syphonia44, you're not suing me. I won't have it. You have a beautiful purple name. I am dead, but you're not suing me. I'm not being sued.
This is a good hunt.
The weirdest lawsuit of all time. There are probably weirder lawsuits. Don't you clap at me. The only reason you're here is because you carded first.
I don't know what you're talking about. You didn't see it happen.
You make a good point. How do you feel about armless hunts?
Oh, they're a different kind of challenge from regular hunts, and they change the way that you have to approach a hunt drastically. They invalidate certain things, not because like, all right, let's say we're hunting this Rathalos, and I'm hunting him with Hunting Horn like I am now, and I've got armor on. There are certain moves that I can justify going for because I know that if I get hit, it's just not going to be that severe. Whereas when we're in an armorless hunt, I can't necessarily go for all the same openings, but I have to try and find a different breed of openings that are going to be safe consistently the whole time. And it's hard to find that in a way that doesn't feel like you're making the hunt take drastically longer. Sometimes armorless hunts feel like it's just you kind of like timing out the monster and so you can find your safe openings enough times, whereas other times it feels like you're just learning them so incredibly precisely that you're I don't know, you're kind of almost learning to just optimally approach the monster in general, and I think that's really satisfying. Because then it's not just you're approaching the monster well, but you're doing it in a way where otherwise you're just going to die.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think when it comes to, you know, your, like, you know, hunts as they were intended, you have that value proposition of, I can get the big old 3 charge, like, TCS on his dome, but there's also the opportunity for him to knock me around. That is not existent in in the armless hunts. It's, if I take this trade, which will do a lot of damage, I'm essentially weighing up, like, me dying versus the potential for a stagger, and like that's the only thing that you can get. And there have been a few times where I'm like, if I hit now, I have like a good gut feeling, because I don't have that in my skill set. I know some people are like doing blackjack counting cards and like, yep, I'll get the stagger after this many hits. No, that's not me.
I love that you call it counting cards. Thank you for calling it that. Please keep calling it that.
It's not for me, especially with sword and shield. That's not happening. So it's like, sometimes you can sort of feel it out, but it does teach you like the flow, and like you can flowchart it in a different way. It's existent. Yeah, that's what I was saying. My good buddy Mike's right.
Oh, is he leaving again?
He is. Classic Rathalos shenanigans.
I think I would not enjoy naked hunts in this game until much, much later in the game, because this free 50 defense makes it feel like I'm still wearing armor.
Honestly, low rank hunts feel like this in every game I've played.
Really?
Yep.
Even without armor?
Even
with zero? Even with 1 defense instead of 50?
Even with 1 defense. I'm convinced the 50 defense is just a number. It doesn't give you anything, really. Like, you might get... But yeah, you can tank every hit in the game. I'm fairly certain. At least once in low rank hunts. At least that was the case in GU. Like, the low rank hunts were super duper easy armorless, but that's one of the main differences. Like, the tail of scale is just, it's a lot more prevalent.
Ooh, do you want to wake him up with a Wyvern's Fire?
I was thinking about it.
It's probably better than... I know it's not optimal or anything, but it's probably better than my freaking backslam wake up.
Optimal.
Hang on, let me buff you.
Thank you. Let me dance.
Alright. I know this is going to buff your Wyvern Fire anyways, but you go ahead, you get that. Oh, sorry.
It's my own fault. It's my own fault.
It's only right.
It's my own fault. But yeah, armorless hunts don't feel too different in any other game at low rank. At high rank, they start to feel a bit more spicy. At G rank, they're just like, if the monster walks into you, you'll die.
I'm kind of scared for that G rank purple Gyps Rose. I've kind of committed to it now, and I have really no idea how much damage a G rank purple Gyps Rose is going to do.
Oh, you're gonna
I may
find
have
out.
to later this week like learn like how to perfectly hunt a purple G rank Gyps Rose, and that might be a pain.
Yeah, that's actually kind of one thing that I did consider doing as the armorless hunts. I was like, do it with armor until you can get comfortable. Oh no, hello. And then, you know, work it out from there. But also, that sort of invalidated the spirit of the run to me, so I didn't want to do that.
In my eyes, I don't know. I know a lot of people who will recommend stuff like that. If you're trying a tough quest, let's say you're doing a multi-monster quest against a Rathalos and a Rathian, and they're both tough. They'll recommend practicing each individually, or like, just no matter the multi-monster hunt, they'll recommend practicing each individually instead of that particular hunt. In my eyes, the more time you spend in the exact environment you're trying to like learn, the better. So the exact multi-monster hunt, the exact like deviant hunt, the exact guild quest, whatever it is, the more time you can spend in that environment, the better you're gonna do.
Oh yeah, that was
That's how it feels to me.
I know that I reference this like it's a dang badge of honor, and I'm sorry for doing so, but yeah, similar to Armless Veteran Scala, learning Rajang, Basilgus, and Magnamalo, I did all of those hunts individually, and I did them in like, you know, 4, 5, sometimes like, I think Magnamalo was like maybe 5 consecutive hours of practice. But you know, it didn't take that long. But it was the environment, the arena setting, the fact that they came out at the same time, how little you have in the way of resources, etc., that made it really tough. And like learning how I needed to corral each individual monster within the confines of that quest. So that was what made the challenge really different.
Nice.
We've done it.
We've
done it.
We've done a naked Rathalos for no discernible reason.
I mean, the discernible reason was to show everyone that we are god gamers. We're very tough and strong.
We really showed that. Uchi's right, for fun. There you go.
For fun? While playing video games? I don't think so, Buster.
No, no such thing.
But we did it.
The no fun cast. That's us.
We could call that.
Whoa! Kinesis has an 100% gold card in GU. That's insane.
That is really, really, really impressive. There's so many monsters.
That game's huge.
I think at like 500 hours, I had just finished every G rank quest that exists in that game. Like,
It's taking me so much longer than that.
oh yeah.
That game is gonna be like my undoing.
I think that it would take. I think it'll take you a literal year knowing how you play.
If I ever feel like I'm about to descend into madness, I'll just start that game so I can blame it on that game, and that game can be my descent into madness.
As long as you can assess the steady descent, that sounds good.
Yep. That's huge, Kinesis. Huge props.
Very, very cool.
Okay. Well, that was that. What do you say we put back on some clothes and we move on to our next topic, Mr. Phalacin?
It sounds good, and I think that it was a nice little lead in to our next topic.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Bum, bum, bum. Let's get it. Manage equipment. Place equipment on body. That was fun. I always enjoy being challenged in that way. It's funny though.
I always enjoy being naked.
Not really. Not really. No. Sometimes it pushes a man to breaking point. It pushes a man to break. Potion. I have some now.
Potion? You have potions? Okay, good. That's good.
I don't know why, but I said it out loud as I read the word, and
potion.
We've done it.
I'm so bad at the menus in these games, man. The more I play more of them at once, the more I get abysmal at the frickin' menuing. They're all slightly different muscle memory.
You'll never be able to be a full game speedrunner with an attitude like
I don't aspire to be one, so we're good.
What are we hunting? What are we hunting? Dealer? What are we hunting? I'll let you
Let's
pick.
Let's go Diablos.
Diablos?
Yep.
You mean that? Wow, I can't believe it's in this game this early. I thought they introduced it in hit Monster Hunter movie starring Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, man, he was brand new for that movie. Brand new design exclusive to the movie.
Are you in the same camp as me where you thought all Diablos were female and all Monoblos were male?
No.
Okay. It's just me and Moths then. Moths and I
It's
should
okay.
say.
Marth thought that?
Yeah, Moths told me that, and I felt so vindicated because I consider Moths to have a wealth of knowledge.
No, I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's one of the few monsters where there's like a specific variant or stage of it where like, well, when it's a black Diablos, you can tell it's a female because it's in heat, and that's what it looks like. Like I don't know. I guess maybe I could see how some people would assume that all of them are like that, and they just turn the black color. But no, I think it's just like the black Diablos are all female ones.
Yeah, I think. Well, this was like prior to me being aware of like Black Diablos. You know, it just made sense to me. It was like white Monoblos, Black Diablos. Yep, makes perfect sense. Rathian, Rathalor. Easy.
Okay, that's fair. Oh, I should freaking eat.
I would advise.
Everyone knows that hammer is what you should use on Diablos.
Yeah, you bonk her noggin. Despite that, I still always refer to Diablos as she, because she's pretty.
Hello, Sora. Welcome.
Hello,
Welcome,
Liz.
folks. Anybody who we haven't said hello to tonight. There's been a lot of kind folks dropping by since we've been talking. We haven't gotten to say hello to everyone, but welcome to, I guess, probably the second half of our cast for the night.
Yeah.
Phalacin, would you give me a quick reminder of how much time you've got left here?
I have an hour and 45 minutes.
Ooh, we got lots to talk about. All right, let's get into it. You ready to go?
Let's get it. Yep, I'm good. I'm good to go. Let's commence to getting it.
Phalacin, do you believe that there can be such a thing as a truly balanced Monster Hunter game?
I think the answer is absolutely, but that game is not fun. Is more or less how I end up coming away from it. Yes.
So the first thought that I take away from that is that Phalacin thinks the unbalanced parts of Monster Hunter are fun.
I think that having homogeneity in numbers, like objectively there has to be something with the best numbers in the game. And if we look at charts, we always see, in terms of speedrunning at least, you know, the 3 ranged weapons come out on top, Greatsword being the best melee weapon, Sword and Shield being like 8th of a cast of 14, so it's like middle of the road, and then Hunting Horn is always the slowest. And that's okay, because if we judge how good a weapon it is, by its ability to speedrun, then we're taking Diablos is here. We're taking a metric that doesn't apply to everyone and taking it that way. So I think for me, it's important that every weapon doesn't feel balanced as such. Like, feels maybe balanced in a sort of looser term, but they're fun first and foremost.
Okay. I understand that answer, I think.
Alright. To provide, like, the fighting game example that I seem to love to hop on, there's one truly balanced fighting game out there in the world, and that is Street Fighter 1, because it has one character. It technically has, like, Ryu and Ken, but they're both exactly the same. And that game is balanced, but nobody likes that game. Oh, I said it's here. You, like, it just bust on through, just as you left. I'm fighting it now.
I'm so confused. I didn't even know if you could go up there.
But yeah, I think if we look at, like Street Fighter 2, which is, you know, probably the most popular fighting game of all time, that game is not balanced, but it sure is fun, because there's a lot of nuance and a lot to learn, and I think that there's more value to making something that isn't as amazing from this one metric of, like, how fast it is, how much damage it does, how much stagger it does, and being creative with it. And I think that that's what makes a game better, because games are meant to be fun. And I think if you have a game that is focused on balance, then you become someone who's catering to competitive play more than you are the casual play. And obviously, let's say you and I play the game in, and I think this statistic probably wouldn't even be accurate. We're in, like, the top 5% of people who play this game and care about it in, like, and have the passion for it in the same way that we do, in the same way, like, a lot of our respective chats do. Then someone who, like, bought World, played it for a few hours, and went, oh yeah, you know, this is cool to just chuck on every now and then.
out of the 20 million people who bought World, maybe, yeah, you could probably say that.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to say it in a way that sounds like not arrogant or not like it's a badge of honor, but like I hope
just
you
like
understand.
statistically, we put enough time into that game and the rest of the series that would probably place us in that percentage. Sure.
Yeah. So I think
we can. Sure.
And I think realistically, you could play one weapon in these games and still have like a lot of fun. But you know, it all depends on how you value it. And I think that weapon balance is one kind of balance that exists in the game. But how do you feel? How do you feel about the weapons as a whole? Do you think that they are balanced, at least in the sense that I'm talking about it right now? Because maybe you have a different idea of what balance means.
I think to me, there has not ever been a balanced Monster Hunter game, and there probably will not ever be a balanced Monster Hunter game. I don't think it's going to be possible for them to do that.
Yeah.
Part of it is just I don't think that that's their focus, and I think you've seen that as like different weapons kind of stay weaker or stronger, or some weapons fluctuate up and down over the games, where like Sword and Shield was pretty freaking strong in Monster Hunter World, both initially and then by the end of it even more so, just by like changes they made over time. And like, did they mean to make it one of the strongest weapons in the game? Did they mean to elevate it from kind of a middle-of-the-road jack-of-all-trades weapon? Like, who knows? I don't think that they really approach the game design from that standpoint. I think that kind of shows across different entries where like certain weapons have a lot more like if you list out things, like if you were to just take each weapon and give them like a pro con list of like, these are this weapon's advantages, these are this weapon's disadvantages it has to work around. Some of them have wildly more advantages or disadvantages than others in any kind of given entry of the game. And I think that that's okay. I don't really particularly begrudge that. I think that they could probably do a good job of like, I feel like if Capcom went through and did that exercise I just talked about, where they listed out pros and cons, they might be able to say, oh, that one's maybe like really an outlier, it's really good. Or that one's like, oh, that one's an outlier, it has like not as much going for it as some of the other ones. I don't think they need to be perfectly balanced, just like I don't think a fighting game needs to be balanced. But when you have your Meta Knight, your Bayonetta, your insert generic 2D traditional fighting game unbalanced character representative here, like, I don't know, I don't think that that's necessarily good for a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because it makes everyone, like, it's either, you know, you're playing that character or you're not having fun. So I think that it's very important that we don't focus too much on, like, is this weapon the best weapon? We focus on, is this weapon the best weapon for me? Sword and Shield, always gonna be my best weapon. And it's not just because, like, oh, I like the moveset, or oh, I like this. I just like how it looks. I like how it feels. I love the sword. I love the shield. I love all of these elements of it. And then, you know, we look at Gunlance, and it's just like, well, it's a pokey stick that also goes boom. And I think as long as we sort of try to enjoy it on that level, and, like, how it feels, and if it's still fun to play, that's going to be infinitely more important than bringing everything in line to be balanced together. And you don't need to balance Monster Hunter in the same way it's a fighting game. I just drank a potion because I'm a sheep and watched you do it. I don't think it needs to be balanced in that way. I think that it's a lot more valuable to have things remain fun, and I think if they were to start trying to pull things in line, the weapons would start to blend together and feel a bit homogenous. In the same way, like,
that's something I have legitimate concerns about. That's the kind of weapon balancing that I actually think that they could serve to do a little bit better job of, personally. That's something that I've been concerned about for a little over a full game now, is just, I think, when you look at the different classes in this game, the different weapon types, in theory, they should all have those different pros and cons, yeah? Yes. And they should all be, like, I mean, like, some can be more similar to others, right? Like, dual blades and sword and shield can both be shorter range, faster paced weapons, but they should have different weaknesses and different strengths, right? Agreed. And they still do. But more so and more so, you've seen different weapon classes that like wouldn't necessarily have similar strengths and weaknesses start to share strengths with one another, and it feels to me like, I don't know, you've got different ways you can add to a fighting game, right? You can make new characters. In our case, you'd be making new weapons. You can balance or reset the ones that are there. You can redesign a kit. You can kind of like emphasize different aspects of that character or that weapon. And I think that the thing that kind of worries me personally about the balance of the series is less like I honestly don't care if longsword is dumb and strong and like stronger than everything else. Like whatever, I'm okay. There's always gonna be at least one. Like whether the margin is as wide as it is in Monster Hunter Rise, where longsword is just kind of nutty, or the margin is a little bit smaller in some of the other games where it's just like it's strong but it's not like out there, right? There's always going to be a weapon or two that's stronger than others and gets the memes of like, oh, that's the big PP damage, like everyone goes for that. That's the meme weapon, right? There's always going to be one of those. For me, it's more so that all the weapons need to feel different to play, and they still do, but I don't know. The more you give more weapons tools, and I'm not just saying counters. I think counters are the easy thing to pull and be like, hey, every weapon's got a counter now, or like a lot of weapons have a counter. Like it's easy to say that. I'm just talking, do these weapons have a similar tool in their toolkit? Where like Hunting Horn and Dual Blades didn't used to be anywhere near close to the same thing, but now they both have fast attacks that you can get in and out of, and they have attacks with iframes. And it's just like, I don't know, there's just, I don't want to see them add too many similar tools to all the different kits, so that all the tools start to be able to, or all the kits, all the weapons, be able to deal with all scenarios in similar or the same ways. I think that would be more of a balancing failure to me than just giving Longsword even more crazy stuff. Because like, if that's what they want to do with Longsword, whatever, I don't care. Just don't make every other weapon exactly like that, because if they did, it'd be really boring. They'd be all the same.
I agree, and I think, we talked about this a little bit last time, funnily enough, but looking at the charts of the best weapons for speedrunning in the game, like across all of the games, I was looking at a bar graph of this the other day in preparation for this topic. The distinction between bow, light bowgun, and heavy bowgun, they are the top three, invariably. Like the best across the series for speedrunning specifically. Then it's always Greatsword, which I feel like we always knew. And Hunting Horn is always the worst. And I think they had like these sort of second differences. And I think that Hunting Horn was like doubly as bad. Like it took twice as long in context of like speedruns than the ranged weapons. And I think that all of the ranged weapons do feel the same, and they don't really have their specific disadvantages. I think you could argue like, oh, bow, you know, you got to hold a weapon down and charge it up, and obviously you need different skills in like the sense of like skills you slot in. But the skill set of like the player isn't necessarily that different. So I don't know. I think that the guns really do need to change in that sense, because I think that they're, funnily enough, I think they're too balanced.
They're steamy.
I think they're too balanced.
That you think that's a good example of them being too similar to one another in strength and approach to different moves and approach to different fights?
Yeah. I could go either way on the discussion of like, yeah, Sword and Shield and Dual Blades shouldn't feel as similar, but they do, because maybe they're... Whoop, I'm out of... No, I'm not. I still have a hot drink. Maybe they're more archetype focused, like they're both the short-ranged, like quick weapon, and then, you know, you have hammer and greatsword, and they're like the longer ranged charge-up weapon that you gotta bonk the noggin with. I could see them thinking about it in terms of like archetypes, rather than just having them be like all individual to one another. I could see that. It, like, you know, you'll sell it as, oh, if you like Greatsword, then yeah, you'll probably like Hammer too. But I think it would be nice if they weren't sort of in that way. And maybe you don't feel that way about it either. Like, I'd be interested to hear your point. But
I think the guns are an interesting example. I think they're an example of like three weapons that are similar in terms of strengths and weaknesses to one another, in a way where like you could consider those three vaguely like closer to being balanced in that way. They're closer to being able to apply themselves to all situations equally than most of the weapons are. And I think you're right in that it makes them less interesting. I think it's a pretty I think the reason why I say there will never be a balanced Monster Hunter game truly is I think it's just wildly too complex for them to do it was just going to be their focus for the game. If their focus for the game was, let's make all of these be sort of like an average level, like a within margin for error, but like an average level of strength in terms of like, I don't know, potential to kill monsters, potential to put out damage. But also, let's not give them all the same tools, or let's not all let them deal with all situations equally. And like with that, you have to consider, okay, that means Hunting Horn's gonna have a rough time with this hunt, whereas Dual Blades is gonna have a good time with this hunt. We just need to make sure there are other hunts in the game that give Dual Blades a hard time, but speak to Hunting Horn's strengths instead. And you need to make sure that each weapon has those strengths and weaknesses to exploit in the first place.
Yeah.
Not, it feels to me like not all weapons have always had those sorts of strengths and weaknesses. Like there are some, depending on the entry of the game, where one will be a little bit better off, one will be a little bit worse off. And it depends on the monster roster of the game and the balancing of those monsters, whether they're fast or slow or big or small. It's just like, there's a lot to it. So I think that's part of why I don't think there really ever will be one is if you just looked at the weapons, it's tough enough to balance. But then when you apply that, you actually have to think about the content of the game and how those weapons are able to deal with the content of the game. It's a lot more than I think they are going to dedicate time to.
Yeah, I think it would be impossible, and moreover, I think a balanced Monster Hunter game would just be boring. It would be relatively flavorless. Because there's no way to do it without having either weapon homogeneity or monster homogeneity. And that's largely how I
kind of agree.
Like, weapon balance is one thing, monster balance is a whole other thing. Because unless skeletons specifically, and they already do share moves or what have you, but I would say they do a fairly consistently good job of at least making them feel a bit different. Like, if I look at the 3 pseudo-wyverns, I think that they all feel different. And I think that the only way that you could make it, like, fair and balanced in a more traditional sense would be to be like, well, yep, you know, it's basically 3 flavors of the same monster. And that would be boring, in my opinion. I just don't think that a balanced Monster Hunter game is a fun Monster Hunter game. And I'm not saying, like, make it wildly unbalanced. I'm just saying, if you try and bring everything in line according to a certain metric, because I think the real question here is, like, what is balanced? Like, every weapon's equally as good.
And I think that's going to be different for a lot of different people, depending on how they're going to plan on playing the game, what their emphasis is, what their background in games and different games they've enjoyed in the past is. They're going to have different impressions of what balanced is.
Yeah, like, I think for, like, you and I, you know, we're not speedrunners as such.
Nope.
So, that makes it...
Happy I'm not.
So, yeah, it's like, Greatsword is the speedrun weapon there. And then, you know, for me, like, for armorless hunts, it's like, I guess Sword and Shield is, like, maybe the speedrun weapon looks the same for armorless hunts for some people, but for me, I'm, like, most comfortable with Sword and Shield. A, because that's a weapon I always play, and B, it just has those tools. It has those options for me, I guess. So
I feel like just how I was talking about how I'm kind of concerned that the weapons could all become too similar, just based because everybody wants their weapon to be strong. Everyone wants their weapon to have a counter or a guard point or something crazy to deal with the latest, like, hip new monster. Like, oh man, I'm gonna hit the sick guard point on Gunlance and then get this thing. It's just like the more so you give each weapon those tools, the more every weapon feels the same. I would be remiss to not talk about how I think players often feel the same way about monsters, where when you think about it, there's some, like, people don't want their weapon to be a slower, more methodical one, even though slower, more methodical weapons do have matchups that they fit into better than faster ones sometimes. I feel like people don't want there to be slower, more methodical fights, or just more obtuse fights in general. They want every fight to be a fast iframey one, and I'm one of them. I love fights. They're just a bunch of fast iframes. That's just my favorite type of fight. They're, like, I don't know. If every fight was hyped like that, I'd be pretty happy, but I think it would probably legitimately take away from the diversity of the roster.
yeah, I think the diversity is really important, because if every... You know, if all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like nails, right? Like, if every monster feels the same and you can approach it the same way, I think that it would make the specific things that you're looking at feel less special. So we need some of these slower, more methodical monsters. Like, Lao Shanlung, I think everyone thinks he's not fun, but I still think that doing him, like, once a month with friends and being like, yeah, this is cool, I think he adds some much-needed flavor. And I think flavor over balance, like nuance, learning your weapon, learning to play against its cons, its weaknesses, is way more fun than just, like, picking the OP thing and going ham.
I'm kind of with you, and I mean, like, if there was a lot of hunts like Laoshan, I think that'd be a pretty crap game.
Oh, yeah,
but there being one hunt that is Laoshan, and it being one really long hunt that you need to get some rare materials from every once in a while, I think that's pretty okay. And, like, if you had to grind it, I think if you had to grind Lao, if you set it out and be like, well, my next goal is to get a bunch of Lao materials for this and such a reason, you're just gonna have a bad time. But if you can just do it every once in a while, I think it's okay that there are hunts in the game that aren't always hunts. They're like just straight up bangers. I don't know. Maybe that's a weird take, but
I get you.
I think there's room in the games for there to be like banger hunts like Zenogre, and room for there to be your Laoshans and your Gravios and your Bizarrios. Like, even though I don't really like Gravios and Bizarrios, and I think just I'm okay with them being. I'm okay with their mechanic if you don't have access to a good hit zone. But the way you go about it is just awfully balanced, where it's just like you're gonna bounce for the entire hunt, then the good weak zone becomes available just as they die. Like, that sucks. That's not fun.
Yeah.
A better example is Duramboros. Duramboros is a poor hit zone laden monster. He has very few hit zones, but he has multiple things for you to go towards breaking. You can trip his legs, you can break his tail, you can break his horns, and then eventually, if you build up the stagger at the right time, you can get access to a nice weak zone, and that's way more interesting than Bizarrios or Gravios. Yet it's still a more methodical, slow-paced hunt, and it's super creative too. So I think that's a good example of something like that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think, obviously, you know, balanced games exist and they are fun, like chess or Counter-Strike, or, you know, weird to compare those two, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. Like,
I do.
Each player...
Those are just the great games from different eras. From one era, you have chess. From our era, you have Counter-Strike and $5 million painted knife cosmetics. But I mean, like, they're basically the same thing.
But yeah, I guess my point there is more like, you know, all the players have access to the same tools at the same time. And, you know, there is not going to be an argument of, like, my character's better than your character. Oh. Or, like, my weapon's better than your weapon. Because that's really common in, like, fighting games, card games, etc., etc. So, yeah, I think those games are balanced, and it works well for that particular context. But I think that in the context of Monster Hunter, having it being completely balanced would be boring. I don't want a weapon... I don't want Sword and Shield to be, like, the best weapon in the game or what have you. I don't want it to output crazy damage numbers like Greatsword. I think that maybe they could lean into certain elements of every weapon a bit more, like make Sword and Shield... Obviously, it's already better at element, but make it like the weapon that's like, yeah, I really care about elemental on this, and to an extent you already do, but lean into that a little harder. And I think that's kind of what I think more about balance. Like, give everything its more specific niche rather than like just this is tacked onto it at the end.
Yeah, I think how I would hope that they would handle balance in Monster Hunters. I don't think they're ever going to make something that is truly balanced. I think you've got different kinds of balances, right? You've got balance like we said, like chess and Counter-Strike, of course, where it's just kind of like very similar tools. There are not many outliers. Like, you have some, like Meister Nox was quoting that white is ever so slightly more advantageous in chess, apparently. There are different guns on the terrorist and counter-terrorist side of Counter-Strike. Like, they're not the exact same, but there are not really any outliers. And I think I'd like Monster Hunter to be more like a well-tuned fighting game roster, where, like, obviously there are outliers of big, heavy grappler characters and fast combo-based characters and all kinds of different characters that are very different from one another. They're not the same. They're not balanced the same. But it's kind of like, you want to think of it like a series of checks and balances, where each weapon and each role in the game has an equal amount of kind of things to do and an equal amount of opportunity, like advantage, or like an opportunity to excel or to succeed, essentially.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's close to true in some of the games and further from true in some of the other games. And I'd like them to kind of view it like that. I don't expect them to make everything balanced, and I certainly don't want them to make every weapon the same. Ooh, artillery +5 charm. That's nice.
Ooh. Yeah. Do you think that in general, Monster Hunter has a very high skill ceiling on that front?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the newer games.
Yeah, you reckon they... Okay.
The older games have skill tied to things like pattern recognition and just immense practice of the monster movesets, to where you can kind of get used to their patterns and kind of game them ahead of time, predict things more often. I think that on top of everything being faster in the new games, the controls are so much more fluid and have so many more options that the skill ceilings are much higher.
Do you think
I genuinely think that. I don't know if I don't know if that's necessarily harder. I don't think the games are harder to necessitate that skill cap being higher, but I think it is.
I think on some level, I could argue that having access to more tools provides more reason to study up and learn to assess when to use these tools, but also on that inverse, the tools have to be meaningful. Like, you know, some switch skills in Rise are just like, you know, no one uses them because there's like some objectively good ones, I suppose. But would you say something like Rise has a higher skill floor? Like, it's easier to get... I don't know how you'd word that, actually. Higher or lower. Is it easier to get into Rise and World? The answer is probably yes.
So the reason I don't think is because, like, I think yes, but I think less because the weapons are easier to get into. Like, I think if anything, the weapons are more complex than ever, and you can see that clear as day. But I think that in general, the balance has been skewed to where, while the weapons have a higher skill ceiling, the monsters might have, or like just the general challenge overall might be lesser, just from a numbers perspective of like, things don't hit you quite as hard. You hit harder than ever. There are more ways to kind of buffet yourself and keep yourself safe at any given moment. And I think that, I mean, that's a whole different can of worms, Phalacin. I don't feel prepared to really talk about that yet. I want to revisit World some more, and I want to think more on Monster Hunter Rise before I really talk about that. But
please do.
I do think that the increased skill cap of weapons and like how much more exact and precise and just optimal, air quotes, moment to moment you can be, because there's so many different options and the fluidity of control is so much higher, does not necessarily line up with the challenges that the game is serving up to, and I think that's a shame.
Yeah, I think to an extent I can agree with that, but also I kind of get Maestro Nox's point with the skills floor is just lowered, and we'll agree that lowered means more accessible in this instance, because I'm not sure how one would discuss that, but yeah, skill floor lowered. I think that that's fair to say, and I think that it's also fair to say that the skill ceiling isn't necessarily higher, but I don't know how I feel about that. I think that you just don't quite have as many tools as one might think of at first glance. The games certainly feel...
The newer games?
Yeah, I think that you don't have, like, as many tools as I might like, I guess. I wish there was, like, more niche and nuanced uses to certain things. And switch skills are a step in the right direction there, but I want them to be a bit more baked in. I suppose. I think that's a pretty interesting way. But I think, in general, the weapon balance is pretty okay. I think the monster balance is
I also feel
impossible.
like the weapon balance is pretty okay. We're like, I don't know. Even though there are crazy outliers, it doesn't bother me that much. I think if I were speedrunning, it would bother me a lot more that Longsword gets so many more tools, so many more times than my weapon does, or whatever it is. But just, I don't know. In general, for most people, I don't think that the weapon balance should matter that much.
To me, I think
because in average play, whether you're playing on your own, it won't matter. And especially when you're in a group, the most unbalanced thing in the whole game is multiplayer. So like, I don't know. I feel like if you're in a multiplayer group, you don't need to worry about weapon balance whatsoever.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up. But I will say, I think it's more, to me, it's like cooler to be like, all right, the weapon I'm using, it's not the best. And I feel this of fighting game characters as well. It's like, you know, this isn't the best weapon in the game, but here's what I can do to the best of my ability with this thing that maybe is like, it has a different set of skills required to utilize it than Greatsword. Because obviously the world's best Greatsword user, you know, they're probably good with Sword and Shield. But for argument's sake, let's say they're probably not going to be the most in tune with Sword and Shield. And I think as long as all of these weapon distinctions exist, and we're all always talking, there will be so many little things that you can discuss in terms of the nuance of the weapon. And I want every weapon to be as nuanced as possible without being clunky or bloated. And I think that that's pretty neat. And I don't think that, in terms of the context of Monster Hunter, I don't think it is a competitive game that requires that level of balance, like chess or Counter-Strike.
No,
Or
it's not.
Chess or Strike.
Thank goodness it's not.
Yeah, they're co-op games meant to be played with friends. And I think that leads me into, you know, we've got weapon balance, we've got monster balance. How do you feel about the multiplayer versus solo balance? Because obviously Monster Hunter was designed with multiplayer in mind. So therefore, the hunts are always going to be designed with, maybe not always, but let's say to nail something down, let's say that it's designed with multiplayer in mind. And there's often this sentiment of like, if you can't play something solo, then, you know, you're missing out on part of the game. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I want to hear your take on it.
I think I'm going to tie it just back to a thought you had just a moment ago about how this game isn't designed to be competitive like that, in that this game is neat and that it has so many different ways to play it that you can actually play it rather seriously, whether you're playing it competitively or just playing it to like when you play it, your goal is to practice and get better at it. It doesn't have to just be a for fun cooperative game.
Yeah, no,
In the same vein, I think it's cool that this game can be just a cooperative game that you play for fun. I don't know. I think that's part of what really makes this series really, really great. It's not that the weapons are all checked and balanced just so that they're all balanced and the monsters attacks you so hard. Like that's just not what makes this game series great. It's part of it, but what makes this game series great in my eyes is that it's so varied. It's so varied and unique, and there's so many things to do and enjoy in it. I think if you enjoy any one part of it and that alone, you're gonna have a harder time.
Just to
if you're only doing multiplayer, or you're only doing solo, or you're only doing speedruns, you're just gonna have a rougher time than if you try and enjoy different aspects of it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think when I say it's designed with multiplayer in mind, I mean like that's the dev team's core focus, and we as a community have sort of taken these elements and turned them into like what they are today. Like the canyon, or you know, it's not quite as wide as like they're really thinking about catering to every single type of playstyle. There's a little bit there for speedrunners. There's a little bit there for like, you know, solo hunters. Well, obviously you can play the whole game solo, and your experience is going to be different, but it'll be fine. But I think, you know, when the dev team set out to make it, like literally, it was designed to test the PS2's network adapter.
Yep. It was designed with that as a focus.
Yeah, so that's more or less what I say, and I think it has enough of that core design there that I'd be comfortable saying that it's a game that they want you to play with friends.
Yep. As we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, not to say that you're gonna have a better or worse experience, and depending on who you are, like you will have a better experience if you play it multiplayer, and you will have a better experience if you play it solo. But that's down to the individual more so rather than the intention of the creators. It like is kind of where I was going with that.
You asked kind of what I thought of both the solo and the multiplayer balancing.
Yeah.
I think that multiplayer balancing, honestly, I think they've done a good job with it over the years, where like it's always a huge upgrade in terms of like ease in most quests. And like I'd say like the vast majority of quests, it just makes the quest a lot more like straightforward to complete, because you are decreasing the monster aggro on you. In general, you are wearing down either the same health pool or even a scaled health pool that's not scaled quite as harshly as it would be solo, to the point where you're going to be dealing more damage on average to the monster. And so I think that in general, like if your goal is to have a good time with friends, they do a good job of making that experience pretty consistent across the series. I think that, I don't know, personally, I think that when you're playing solo, it's rough, because different people are going to solo for different reasons. Some people are going to solo because they just can't find anybody to play with, and other people are going to solo because they want it to be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So I wish, for me personally, I want the solo experience to be harder, and I feel like it's been in different places. I feel like the earlier you go back in the games, I don't know, not every game is perfect solo. I haven't done a whole lot of Monster Hunter 1's hub or anything, so I can't really speak to first gen, but I really like how second generation is balanced for solo play, where it's just like, it's grueling. You have to spend a lot of time wearing down the monster, and I like that particular balance thing. If a monster dies in 15 minutes for me solo, that's just too fast for me a lot of the time.
I could agree with that. Yeah, I think
I want to hunt the monster for longer than that. I want to enjoy the hunt, enjoy the game for longer than that. And so, I don't know, that's a very personal thing, where I think some people would be like, yo, this whole game, every hunt took like 25 minutes. What a lame game. Everything takes so long, it's so slow. Everything's so tanky and bloated. Like, and I understand that, it's just not how I feel, I guess. So I don't know if there's going to be a really concise answer about it, but that's how I feel. It's like, I wish that solo was tougher, in general.
You know, actually having spoken to a lot of people who play Dark Souls, and they like look at Monster Hunter and they're like, oh yeah, there's like enough similarity, 3D, you know, 3D like action RPG. You know, don't beat me up for the comparison. I'm just saying there's enough vague similarities there. They tend to bounce off Monster Hunter because they're like, the fights take too long. I don't get it. I want there to be like this more tightly packed like experience where you know, it's real tough and I have like less avenues to do this, that, or the other, I suppose. So, yeah, like having spoken to a lot of people who play like lots of Dark Souls, that tends to be their experience. Like they bounce off it, it seems. So I think that is pretty fascinating, and I think that it's going to be really tough to balance the quest structure and the monster structure to do well in multiplayer versus solo. I think just like to throw sorry,
you go ahead.
I was gonna say, just to throw an idea out there, what would you think of some monsters having move sets or just specific moves that are unique to either multiplayer or like solo hunts, and maybe changing some of the hurt boxes within that?
I don't think I would particularly enjoy that. I want the monster to be the same regardless. It'd be weird if it fought differently in solo or multiplayer.
Okay.
I think for me, something that I've heard brought up recently that I think I really like the idea of is I wish both solo and multiplayer, I wish you could just turn the difficulty up or down when you take the quest. Like, maybe it adds a multiplier to the rewards of Zenny, or maybe a small multiplier to the rare drop chance or something. Nothing massive, just something small, so that there's like a little bit of an incentive to do the harder versions, but just something subtle enough where like you don't need to. You can make the whole armor set just fine without doing the hard version of Barioth. But then if you want to, you can boot up a quest by yourself or with buds and be like, hey, I want the hard as nails version. I don't see, like, I wish they would just do that. And like, I get some people being like, well, that'd be lame, because then people could do the little, like the easier version. Like, I don't give a shit. People can do whatever they like. I just want a hard version for myself because I just want to have a hard time.
I totally agree. Like, I think, like, I've never even considered that idea before, but I think it's really good, but with the caveat of, I could see it interfering from a perspective of, like, it takes you out of the game a little bit. But ultimately, I guess the question becomes, would it be more impactful on your experience with the game? Yeah, probably. Probably, like, absolutely. I think that they could definitely work it into, like, the visual storytelling as well. Like, when you go to pick a Barioth, I think, like, even having it from the very beginning of the game, like, you know, we've got a 1-star through, like, 5-star Barioth, and, you know, 5-star has some unique moves, and 1-star is like a bit toned down, and maybe they do some different armor sets there. I'm just spitballing some ideas, but I think that they could fit that into the game, because canonically there are monsters that are stronger than, like, other monsters within their own species, and they have different moves. So yeah, why couldn't they do that? Why couldn't they give you some ridiculous, like, overtuned experience in that way while keeping it lore and canon friendly?
I think that, to me, it's important that the differences are subtle in terms of like the differences are not, like, the differences don't have enough of an impact on your progression through the game that players who don't want to do the hard version aren't forced to. Because I think that's the important thing, is like, for someone who just wants to play the game and have a good time with friends, I don't want to tell them, well, get screwed, you can't get this drop unless you do the big boy version. Like, I don't want that to be the case for them. I just want it to be something where I can turn on something that says, I want to do the difficult version because I really like spending a long ass time with these monsters and just having a good time. Like, that's what I want. I want some way to just be like, hey, turn the game difficulty up for me, and what everybody else wants to do, they can do.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. But I do 100% agree with, like, small incentivized rewards in that way. Like, you know, do every monster like 5 stars or whatever to get, you know, the golden name or something. Like,
give you a special reward in your guild card or something. Sure, something recognition for it. But on the average hunt, I would just want, like, hey, you get an extra small Zenny modifier, which, like, over the course of the game is going to add up. Or, hey, you get an extra percentage chance, like an extra, like, instead of a 3% drop, you get a 4% drop on that rare drop. Like, that sounds nice, but it doesn't, like, it's not like a player who doesn't want to do the tough version feels like they have to do the tough version to get that rare drop or to have enough Zenny to go through the game. That's my idea.
Yeah, I think doing that without having people feel like they're missing out is really important. And also, if certain monsters, like the difference between a 1 and a 5-star, sorry to keep using this idea that I came up with like 30 seconds ago. I think having the distinction between like a 1-star Barioth that has, like, you know, toned down moves, he doesn't have his whole moveset, versus the 5-star version, which has the, you know, oh dear, he's moving on the one spot. Ah, sorry. He's not anymore. having like this 5-star moveset where he does some like crazy stuff, like he does this spin out, you know, shoots spikes out of him, kind of like, you know, I'm just throwing out an example now, but having different moves, and you're like, oh man, you know, you got to try the 5-star version, he's got this crazy move, and then they say it and they're like, ah. I think that incentivizes you fighting the same monster a few different ways, and you know, it caters to your moves. Someday you want to just jump on Monhunt and like do a quick like 15-minute hunt and be like, yeah, this was cozy, this is comfy. And sometimes you want to be pushed, and I think that maybe that's why we do armorless hunts, because we want something to challenge us more in that way, and it adds that extra layer. So I think that does really add something in that really cool way. So yeah, no, I think your idea is really good, and I'd never thought of it like that. I think that's fantastic.
I've heard multiple other people talk about it in the past. It's not something I've thought of on my own, but it's something that I think is really a nice solution to that problem of just like, they clearly have different ideas they've had different ideas over the course of the series of what the game should be like for a solo player, what the game should be like in multiplayer, to the point where they're scaling things now that they didn't before. And I know a lot of folks really like the scaling system because it means that it's a little tougher for multiplayer than it was in the past, and it's a little easier for solo than it was in the past. But I begrudge that. I don't want it to be easier for solo. I want solo to be tougher because I want the games to be continually more of a challenge, or at least have parts of themselves that are more of a challenge, and I know that's not something everybody wants. So I don't want to screw those people over, but I want that still. And that's the only way I can reconcile that, I think, is just give me a way where I can turn it on for me and not force other people.
Yeah, no, that sounds really good. And obviously, you know, like other games kind of do that. They have more casual content geared at like players who just want to play the game and have fun. And then they have like this ultimate, you know, big nutso content that's just ridiculous for like no good reason. And I think that catering to
event quests can fill that role. I want that to be more of the game. It shouldn't just be like a one. If every monster had a harder version in an event, I'd be pleased. But that doesn't happen in most games.
Yeah, no, I think your idea is really good. I think catering to all spectrums of every audience is really good. And by the way, I don't use the term casual gamer in like a dirty way. I think that space is like...
I think anybody who's listening to this conversation knows that we're not trying to judge people. We're just trying to say, like, some people are preferring to approach this in a serious way, and others are not, and that's fine. It's just this game can support that, and that's freaking neat.
You know me. I just worry, and I over-clarify for no good reason, so people don't have to wonder.
It's a nice fast bury-off.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I love bury-off. He's one of my favorites.
I just got to fight him the other day for the first time in this game.
Yeah, he was the first ever hunt I ever did in Monster Hunter, and it was in the arena, and I didn't know what I was doing. I did not know.
Was that in the demo?
No, it wasn't in the demo. I bought the game, and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. How do I make weapons? I didn't watch tutorials or anything. I'd never seen anyone play it, so I was just feeling my way around, made my way to the hub because I didn't know how to take quests, and arena Barrioth it was, and he carded me 9 times, and I got absolutely dumpstered, and I was like, this game sucks. That was
as you do for your first Monster Hunter game.
Yep, bounced off it like a small child running into a leg. What a terrible analogy. Not good at all. Not good at all. Hello, hero. Yeah, no, I think...
Well, that's a long-winded way to talk about balancing in Monster Hunter. And then we've kind of talked about our next topic a little bit. What do you think?
I think that it blended together nicely. And I don't feel it was particularly long-winded. I felt it was, you know, everything that had to be said got said. I think it was good.
So... we're going to use the transition that I enjoy the game being difficult to talk about this next part of our cast. This is something I've wanted to talk about in some form or another for a little while now, which is how we feel about negating aspects of the combat. Now, I think here, we should probably queue something up so we can actually hunt, because if I start explaining this, we're going to sit here for a while and we're not going to do anything. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is negating aspects of Monster Hunter's combat.
Sounds good.
So let me take a look. What's another key that we haven't done yet? We just did Barrioth. I think Ignactor might be there. You want to do an Ignactor?
I like Ignactor.
I accidentally talked to the guild guy. I'm gonna go change my stat. I'll be right back.
You take your time. Take your time. Yeah, no. Not every game needs to be balanced to the point that it's boring. It's a game first and foremost, and I really like your idea of having different tiers of the same monster that give an incentive to do it, but not so much that people feel left out. I think that's...
It's a delicate balance, because if there's too much, or if there's things that are exclusive to that monster, even if it's just like a small thing, it's still going to be like, well, I didn't get to fight the whole game. I want it to be like you can play the whole game either way.
I agree.
I don't know. Yeah, it's rough. It's a tough thing.
I agree, but also incentivizing players who might want to... Who come into it a little bit more casually, and they might want to sort of tier themselves up as things go along. I think that adding stuff to monsters is pretty cool, and not in a way that like variants or subspecies have. But sometimes that's like just 1 or 2 new moves, and they're not necessarily harder.
I also think if there was just a variant or subspecies that was only exclusive to a harder difficulty, I think that would make people sad. I don't want that to be the case.
That would be awful.
That'd be too much exclusive. Yeah.
That would be awful. I wouldn't like that. But you know, it gives
Which I can acknowledge is kind of like how high rank is. So I guess there's sort of a version of this already, where like if you just want to see at the basic level, the most basic part of the game, you play through low rank and you're like, okay, I've seen the game, but like there's too much stuff that's exclusive to the different ranks to really feel good about that, I think.
Well, I think that it would be hard to say that like in 1 star of you know, low rank, can you experience every kind of monster? There's always going to be that sort of like tiered up, you have to get to high rank, etc, etc. So, you know, effectively this already exists within the game. I think that's cool. Oh, you're also... What weapon is that? That is the heavy bow gun, right?
No.
Gunlance!
This is a gunlance,
Let's
friend.
go. Let's go.
This is a Nibblesnarf gunlance.
It's very nice.
Thanks.
Very nice.
I've been having a lot of fun collecting things. Like I said, look at this design. It's like a giant grenade launcher rifle with a bayonet.
It is very cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I recognized it as the Nibblesnarf one. I initially
thought...
thought... I do? I should. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Cool.
It does look pretty cool. All the Nibblesnarf stuff. It has like that sort of generic military design, but in a neat way.
In Monster Hunter, that generic military design sticks out.
Agreed.
Yeah, like, isn't it weird that the Monster Hunter movie was just Nibblesnarf themed?
Have you seen it yet?
No.
we should watch it.
I haven't seen the Netflix special with Aiden, and I haven't seen the movie with Mia.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich. What a
Yep, I haven't seen it. Hi, Schmag. Okay, so negating things in Monster Hunter's combat. When I say this, what I'm talking about, this is something I've felt about Monster Hunter for a while, and it's part of the reason that I play in such a weird, obtuse way a lot of the time. Is I feel like if you take a hunt like Rathalos, and let's say you're having a hard time with his roar, or with his fireball, or with his poison, how do you feel about taking an armor skill like poison negate, or wind pressure negate, or earplugs? How do you feel that affects that fight for you? Like, how do you feel about negating those aspects of that fight? And clearing through it and going, okay, I beat Rathalos.
Okay, I think that depending, like, your mileage may vary. Maybe you view roars as a nuisance. Maybe you view poison as a nuisance. Maybe, like, these things don't add to your experience all that much. So I'm not necessarily against running, like, negate poison, negate wind. And I think in some instances, like, you probably... Either they, for instance, like Kushala Daura, they incentivize you to use a specific weapon in a more direct way, or you know they give you negate wind or something like that. So it's interesting when you say negating aspects of the fight. I think that's kind of like, in my opinion, that's what the skill system is more there for, right? To sort of bring out the strengths within your armor in a more meaningful, impactful way. But I could also see what you mean by, like, yeah, you know, if I just did away with wind pressure, you haven't experienced Kushala Daura. I think having that option...
Not really.
I think having that option there is not the worst, because, you know, like what we were talking about before, catering to people who might just flat out, like, find him annoying. Like, that negating the wind pressure could be the difference between Kushala being your most hated monster and your most, like, your favorite monster. So I think on that level, I'm okay with it, and I can choose whether or not I want to engage in it. I've never, like, ran negate wind pressure on Kush, despite the fact that I know it's good, because, well, I kind of never felt incentivized to just build one set for one monster. I think that might have to do with skill bloat, but we will discuss that another time, because I really...
Yeah, we sure will.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, you're good. I guess for me, I think people think I'm weird. I feel like folks think I'm really weird and that I refuse to use that stuff. To me, it's like I want to learn how to deal with those aspects of the game are there. Whether it's Rathalos' poison moves that you got to learn to avoid, or wind pressure combos that you need to learn not to get hit by, or that once you get hit by, you need to learn how to safely get out of. I feel like those are aspects of the fight that I want to learn, because there are going to be some times where maybe I won't have flash bombs out the wazoo to flash Rathalos out of the sky, or negate wind pressure, negate poison, or whatever it is. And I think I'm depriving myself that knowledge if I go and I take those skills. Now, like, maybe I don't care. Maybe I just want to beat the Rathalos in 3-star, and I don't care if the Rathalos in 5-star is different, and I end up having to deal with it then. But, like, I want to learn those things. And I feel like folks often don't think about that when they equip a skill like stun negate or whatever it is. They don't learn what combos they really gotta look out for, because maybe they get hit 4 or 5 times, but they don't get stunned because they have stun negate on. Like, I don't know.
I think to that end, one could be able to argue that equipping those skills is learning how to deal with it. I don't know that I necessarily feel that way, but I think you could say, like, yeah, you know,
I don't think so.
Maybe not learning in the sense that you're talking about, but you are effectively dealing with a problem that you don't necessarily want to have. And I can agree. Like, sure, negating that for your first couple of times, you might not really be experiencing everything that you have that monster has to offer. And if you go, oh, you know, Rathalos dummy easy, you sort of open yourself up to, well, you use poison negate, stun negate, the brand new Rathalos negate skill that Ryozo gave to me only that allows me to one-shot him. I think you could... Yeah, I think there's certainly a case to be made, but it's funny, when you say negating the fight, I think about... I thought that you more would be leaning on the negating, like, you roll once, and then you do a 3-charge into, like, Stygian's head. Like, have you ever seen a Stygian Zinogre speedrun with Greatsword in... for Ultimate?
For you?
Yeah.
Vaguely, yeah. I've seen some of that stuff where it's like freakishly consistent.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's clearly through practice.
Yes, that is through practice, but I think that you are effectively negating the height. Negating the height, negating the fight. What do you think? Do you think that the level of practice required to negate the fight may make it a bit more valuable?
It depends on how you're doing it and if it takes skill, I think. And also, to me, it's like I have a weird personal, like, one about that where I'm okay if you're learning to lock down a monster, but if you're using your weapon, if you're just pressing a button, putting on a shock trap, and then you're using your biggest damage combo to lock down the monster, I don't particularly think that's interesting, because you didn't have to do anything particularly interesting to do that. You just put down an instant deploying shock trap and then comboed the monster. Like, that's not... That's negating a hunt. That's part of, like, and it's not just like armor skills either. I feel the same way about tools like flash bombs and shock traps and stuff like that. Using that for getting damage is something that I usually try and avoid. Like, I'll occasionally use a flash bomb to, like, get a monster in a trap or to run away safely or something, but for me, it's like a personal thing. It's like, I'm not going to get myself closer to the end of this hunt through damage by putting down something that isn't me using my weapon. Because then I'm not learning. Like, I can use that shock trap on every monster the same way, or every weapon the same way, and it's not really learning this specific unique matchup that I'm up against at the time, whether it's Ignactor with Gunlance or whatever it is. If I hit down a shock trap and just did damage, I'm not learning much there, except I'm practicing whatever I've learned is my highest damage combo, which I think is not particularly interesting.
I'll be there at 5:30.
But that's a personal thing. This is like a super biased thing where I'm just like, I'm biased towards my weirdo screwed up way of enjoying the games.
Yeah,
I wanted to hear what somebody else would think of it.
Yeah, preach your truth, King. Preach your truth. If that's how you want to value it, then, like, I think that's pretty cool. I think it's a very interesting take. I don't think I don't really feel too strongly, because I know those tools are available to me, and I just, you know, I never use flash bombs. I always forget shock traps. You know, this, that, or the other. And
Why do you think? Why don't you use those?
Because I know for me, I tend to play a bit more like just any game, I tend to play pretty fast and loose, and I don't hone in on something unless it's actively beating me up. So I think that maybe that learning aspect, and I feel guilty for saying it, and I'm trying to become a bit better at it now, in part by like I'm enjoying being more analytical of the media that I consume these days specifically. So I am going back and I'm like focusing on these fights and really learning what they do. But for the most part, it's
I should clarify that. Also, I'm not saying that like I'm some galaxy brain monster player, because I'm freaking not. Like when I'm playing the game the way I play, I don't feel like I retain very much of it, but I enjoy that challenge in the moment of trying to figure out, okay, with Gunlance, how do I hunt against Ignactor? Not getting him stuck in a trap, not flashing him or whatever. How do I approach this hunt with this weapon? I like that. And I might not ever optimize it to the point where I really know Ignactor's openings with Gunlance. Or I might not even remember it the next time I hunt an Ignactor with Gunlance. But it's just like, that's the experience I enjoy most.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
very
weird.
fair. I think also, like, there's one thing that I can take away from this conversation. That is, set crafting is, to some folks, as big a part of the game as the hunts themselves. So I think it's very interesting for folks to like, theory craft sets and be like, alright, if I use Negate Wind, you know, I think that is pretty interesting, and I think that's a fun element to the game to some people.
That's
so
fair.
I like it for that. I really do like it for that.
That's fair.
I myself am just like,
There are really interesting synergies in specific hunts. Maestro Nox in the chat mentioned a bit ago that like on Diablos or Rajang, certain combos or openings or punishes you can unlock by running Tremor Res. That you just can't, even if you perfectly iframe that Tremor, you're not going to have the time to punish whatever move it is that spawns that Tremor properly unless you have the Tremor Res. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a, you know, that's a very neat and, you know, interesting way to look at it. And often this comes up, and this will come up again in the skills topic, and I've brought it up. I wish that, not necessarily for negation as much, but I think that removing some skill bloat in the form of like too many damage skills, and adding some more interesting and nuanced ones that allow us to fight monsters in different ways. Because as it stands, I can beat every single monster in the game with Sword and Shield, and, you know, that's no issue whatsoever. But it all depends on your personal value. And I think that, again, that comes back to Monster Hunter is a game that is wide enough that it gives you the ability to select your options. And I think the option to not take shock traps, to not take flash bombs, etc., the option to headlock, those are certainly ways of playing the game, and they don't work for everyone. And I think that that's exemplified in a lot of different ways. Like, I don't like the trap monsters because I feel like I'm depriving myself of, like, the ability to fail after a certain point. But also on that note, like, there's a
Dude, I failed so many traps.
Yeah, I think
I failed probably like half the traps I freaking placed down.
I think that's pretty interesting. But I think the ability to tone down monsters for yourself, it's part of what gives Mon Hun flavor. And I wish that they would lean into it in different ways. I think that, I don't know how they do this, but I think I agree. Like, sure, let's say that the negation abilities are just like a flat out binary, I have removed this exact thing, what have you. I think on that metric though, if we look at something like Evade Extender or Evade Window, I like that more because it allows you to change up your individual playstyle, how you'd like to play, while also allowing you to not negate parts of the fights, but through using an individual, you know, thing that you might have learned, or giving yourself, like, effectively building that opening for yourself, like Nox was saying with Tremor Resistance opening up pathways. I think Evade Window, Evade Extender, etc. I think that direction, I like that more than just a flat out, like, yep, no paralysis resistance or poison resistance.
And, like, I get that. I think that skills like Evade Plus, Guard Plus, like, that is inherently more interesting than just turn off poison for this hunt.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, being like the big fantasy nerd, RPG nerd that I am, it's like, I love the idea of having themed sets, like, you know, making this Ice Warrior set who has like way more ice damage, and he's resistant to fire, and I can go up against these fire monsters, and I got defenses against them. Like, I've really prepared for the hunt in that sense. Or, like, you know, having, like, this really more, I guess, fantasy theme. Like, I like that a lot more, and I would love to see more of that. However, thematically, you know, oh yeah, by the way, I have an invisible force field that means that I don't get stunned, get owned, and also you don't have anything that can deal with that effectively. I think I can see what you're saying. I can dig it. I can dig it. By the way, we beat this dude up and took his lunch
dude,
money.
this Ignator got to freaking destroyed. Gunlance is really nice for him because you don't have to worry about his freaking zones. And even the small bit of fire damage from Gunlance, if you're applying enough of it, will heat his zones up. Granted, I have a water Gunlance, so I'm like probably counteracting that at the same time. But still, the shelling damage is super nice and low rank on a hunt like this. Yeah, Uchi asked how I feel about monsters where, like, let's say it's like Kushala, and Kushala has horrific Dragon Wind, and the only way to counter that Dragon Wind is to use the Kushala set. I think I like that sort of thing. It feels more earned to me, and it feels like then it's like you've already had to deal with it enough times. Like whether it's in multiplayer or solo, you suffered through that hunt a few times somehow, and like at that point you can then start to negate it or reduce its effects. I'd prefer in a lot of things if it was just it decreased its thing's efficacy rather than removing them altogether. I really like running like 1 or 2 points of stun resist in Rise or World, but I really don't like running full stun res because I like there to still be a threat of it. So I don't know, just something like that. But that's just my own personal like weird balance thing.
You know, I actually don't like that. I don't like
No?
I don't like it being tied to that monster. I don't like that I have to, let's say on Valhazak. It's like I don't like that I have to deal with his miasma to be allowed to not have to deal with his miasma, because by the time I'm able to build that set, if you're giving me a set that's like specifically negating this one monster, you either better give me more monsters that set's going to be valuable against, or, you know, give it different, new, and interesting skills. Because by the time I've farmed up Valhazak enough that I can make his weapons, make his armor, I don't care to fight him anymore.
Yeah, and I get that. I guess, I don't know. I like that thematically. I don't know if that really solves my particular balancing problem personally.
Yeah, so I think...
Phalacin,
go on.
I have a question for you. Would you like to go ahead and remove your armor again, because we just unlocked that Wrath quest we intended to do. We did all the keys.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't know. I think for me, like, in terms of that, yeah, you're right. I don't want to just like flat out remove parts of the hunt. I don't know how I feel about stun as a whole. Like, how do you feel about stun as a whole? I think that's one that I often get stuck on, because like I understand why it's there, but I also think that it might just be like, okay, you know, sometimes it's like I took 3 hits in a row and now I'm just going to die because my character's gonna stand there.
I like old school stun. I don't like new school stun.
I can't say that I can identify a difference in any tangible way. Would you care to do it for me?
Both of them are procced about the same when you take a certain number of hits in quick succession. In new stun, at least in World, you physically can't reduce the cooldown no matter no matter how much you mash. Like, it's just you're stuck in stun for a certain amount of time. In the old games, if you mash, you can mash out of it quite quickly. Depending on how hard you mash. Now, granted, I don't like mashing at all. I wish it was maybe like, I don't know. I don't like mashing as a mechanic in any form, in any game. I think it's a bad mechanic. It just, I don't like destroying my fingers or my controller to get out of a Rathalos pin. But I like there being a punishment for getting hit several times in a row. And I like in the old games, pre-world, that like it's decently easy to get out of before you get smacked. Like you can, unless the monster's coming quickly. And so it's like there's a risk there of like, hey, don't get hit too many times, or else you're gonna have a slightly longer cooldown before you can move again after that last hit there. In World and even in Rise, I know Rise you can still reduce the cooldown. I don't know if it's the same. You can't get out of it as quickly as you could in the old school games, I don't think. And to me, it still feels too long. So I don't know. I don't like the newer versions of stun in the newer games. I do like stun in the older games.
Okay. Yeah, no, I found that in like World, I'll just run Acid Glav gauntlets on everything, and then like slot in the last point of stun resist, because I just don't like being stunned. I think it just...
Wait, run Acid Glav gauntlets on everything? Oh, right, the armor. I'm sorry. Got it.
Yeah, no.
You,
no.
So you just negate it entirely because you don't think it's good in that game.
I just don't think it's a great mechanic, no. But that's just me. Like,
That's fair.
That's why I was.
Heard that thought before.
Yeah,
I've heard folks say that they really don't like stun.
Yeah, like, you know, if it happens, it doesn't cost me too much. But it's like, it annoys me enough that, you know, I'll just take it. And also that hand piece has great slot value.
Especially in the new games, dude. I mean, as much as I don't like new stun because it feels it feels like just way too long. There's got to be something, man, because ostensibly, like, okay, ostensibly you getting hit should be enough of a punishment, right?
Yes.
Like, you've gotten hit, you have to take time to heal, whatever. But healing is so damn free in the new games. There's got to be an extra, like the reason stun exists is to be another deeper punishment for getting hit, not just once, but getting hit repeatedly, to keep you from just getting hit, healing over and over and over and over. It's to discourage you from just having that be your pattern. Now, it doesn't happen that often, I don't think. So it's not like it discourages that all the time, but it's just like, especially in the new games, I don't like the new stun because it's just too long, and I feel like maybe this is just me, but I had a harder time predicting. Like in the older games, I can take a few hits and I'll be like, I'm one hit away from stun. I can just tell. I can tell that if I get hit again, I'm gonna get stunned. And sometimes I get hit again, I get stunned, and I can just feel like I have a sense for how many hits it takes to stun me. In the new games, I can't get that sense from World and Rise. Now, I'm not sure if it's just like there's a different number of hits required to stun you, or if it's varied, or if they changed how it worked a little bit, but it feels more random to me. I don't know if it is, but it feels like that to me personally. And so to me, I don't really like it as much, whereas I liked it in the old games, but also I feel like the healing is so free in the new games that it really needs something like that to discourage you from just getting hit, chugging a potion, getting hit, chugging a potion, getting hit, chugging a potion over and over.
Yeah, okay, I guess I'd never... I guess I'd never considered it in that way. It's like, oh, yeah, you know, like, it's meant to de-incentivize you healing in that way. I think they could do it differently. I don't know how. But I think that they could do that differently. I think maybe like the stinky status effect. What's it called?
I think you could just make the hunter get full if you drank too much all at once.
You know?
There you go.
That's better. I was gonna say maybe like put the stinky status effect on a like a bar similar to stun or something like that.
You drink the stinky. You just drink too much and you get smelly.
No, like monsters can do it to you, like certain monsters.
You don't like that status, Phalacin. You hate that status.
I don't like how it's inflicted. The status doesn't bother me one way or the other. Knowing what it is.
How would you like to get stinky?
Yeah, good question.
Hot question.
It doesn't have to be the stinky status effect. I don't know, maybe he gets lockjaw or something. Like, something can give me tetanus because I haven't had my shots. Like, maybe you can do that instead. But something to that effect. I think you're right. Like, the ability to remove the hunter's healing, but also there's the case to be made of, like, that's lazy design and artificial difficulty, blah, blah, blah. I think that's
I think I'd be fine. I think as long as there's something to keep you from just getting hit and healing over and over and over. And, like, granted, that doesn't necessarily need to be there. You could make the argument that just healing and losing through your healing is enough. But also, when you have unlimited healing, maybe that's not enough. Like, I don't know. It's a very complex topic that's tied up in how different overall the newer games approach balancing, where like there are not, outside of there being 3 carts still as a limit, there are not many hard limits for how much damage you can incur as a player and still finish a quest. And like, granted, the bed's always been there, so I don't know. It's just it's very different. It's a very different balance, and so I don't know what stun system would work with newer balancing, but I feel like just making the stuns longer and making them feel more random when they occur isn't necessarily great either.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard one, like negating the player's ability to heal. Because it's like, I can bring 10 mega potions, 10 potions, 10 honey, you know, herbs, for how useless that is. Like, effectively, I don't know how many heals I could bring on a hunt. I haven't run the math on this. I think it's something...
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's something to the effect of, like, I could bring 20 mega potions and, like, 30 potions plus first aid meds.
You can run health rec items up.
Yeah.
I love health rec items up. It's a good skill.
Yeah. You could do all of these things. I think maybe limiting your ability to heal might make you have to think about it a bit more. But then again, like...
You don't say!
I think also the argument of lazy that could just be like lazy game design. and Hyper Ray. We are being raided by
I see that.
a friend named Hyper Ray. I believe we both know Hyper Ray. Thank you so much for coming in, everyone. Welcome to
What was Hyper Ray up to tonight?
What were you playing today, our good buddy Hyper Ray? Ruchi, can I ask that you shout out our good buddy? Welcome on in, everyone. Welcome to Ristretto and Phalacin's As-Yet-Unnamed 3U cast. It's pretty... We've been having a really good time tonight. At least I have.
I have too.
3U? Ah, wonderful. So please, make sure you pull up that multi-link. Give my friend some love. He's a good egg.
Oh, I didn't see Uchi do that in both the chats, and I thought Uchi just did it in my chat, and I was like, that's the wrong chat.
No, Uchi is a good egg. Actually, you know, Uchi, not so full of albumin, I would say, but that's...
Wait, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'll tell you when you're older. No, albumin is the egg white part.
What? I still don't get it.
So, the white part of the egg?
Yeah.
Albumin, that's its name.
Yeah, but what does the white part of the egg mean?
It means the white part of the egg. I don't know. You can't make a meringue.
Wait, so like,
look,
is the white part supposed to be like the smart part or something? Like, I'm confused. It sounded like you were calling him dumb.
Sounds like you're asking too many questions. Sounds like you're asking too many.
Yeah. You truly are the pit of an avocado.
That's okay. I'll take that. Isn't it called the egg white? Well, you know, you have the egg white and the egg yellow, of course. No, you have the albumin and the yolk.
What does each one connotate? Like, what is saying somebody that is an albumin is? What does that mean?
Look.
Are you censoring because it's like awful or like what's going on?
No, it's actually just nothing. It's actually just nothing, and now that we've gotten stuck on it so much, it seems way worse than it actually is. But it's just nothing. It's just nothing. I just like albumin as a word. I can see that. Don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much.
Make it so excessive healing makes your character stuck in rooted animation. I mean, I personally would take that back in a heartbeat. I think it adds so much to this series.
I think that you know that they removed guts posing because you can just zone.
But most folks didn't. I think it adds so much to the series.
Yeah. But
it takes out a lot of the combat's depth. Not all of the combat's depth, clearly, but a good chunk of it.
I think that the option to zone has always been there, and just because most folks that you talk to didn't, doesn't mean that you know, you have the option. You have the option to zone should you be so inclined. So, where that option is not present in World, so they gave you something to offset that a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, I think...
It's pretty excessive.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not gonna put, like, you know how you didn't pull any punches about you thinking Rathalos should be taken out of the games? I'm not pulling any punches on that. That's a straight regression in terms of game design.
I disagree. I think that they had a clear intention, and they have sort of gone... No, don't say that. They saw a potential issue and a balance thing, and they changed it. They changed it to be...
I think they went too far. I think they went too far and went even further in Rise.
Ow, he's sniping me.
Yeah.
He's a scumbag. But yeah, I wouldn't be fussed if they brought it back, but I'm just saying, I think the intention was you can zone in this game. You can leave to go do whatever you want.
I don't think that was the intention. I think it ties into the exact same core loop that having a stamina system and having longer animations for your weapons than the average
Is he doing
action
around
game
the world?
ties into. He is, yes. This is the
I'm turning the game off. I'm turning the game off.
Oh no, don't do that. I think that the core tenets of this game are that the monsters have long actions and you have longer actions than the average action game, and that you have hard beginning and endings of those moves, and you have end lag to those moves. Everything takes time, from healing to rolling to attacking with your weapon. Everything is tied into that. It's very core to the series. That's why sharpening takes a while. That's why healing takes a while. It's all part of that. You have to find openings for everything you do in this game. So the fact that they made something where you can just do it whenever, you're just walking around.
But look at this. He's about to attack me. I need to heal. There. I'm completely safe. He can't do anything.
It's a low-rank Rathalos.
Yeah, I could do this at G rank too. It's not like they removed the zones.
It's oh, you zoned. Okay, I mean that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine that option's there. It takes longer. You can't always do it. Sometimes you have to stay in the area with the monster. There are arena quests where you can't zone.
Right you are. You know, I can see that.
Too.
Okay.
It is a core tenet of this game's difficulty, and to remove it, to jettison all weight tied to it, is a shame. I won't. This is a hill I will die on, like you and Rathalos.
And that's I didn't
like,
die on the hill of Rathalos though. I was playing Devil's Advocate. I like Rathalos. I just
That's
think
why you suggested to me the other day that our podcast's name should be the Remove Rathalos from the Game, You Cowards, Capcom?
Oh yeah, the RIFMHYCPC. Yeah, I told you it rolls off the tongue. It rolls off the tongue. It's a beautiful name.
I don't go on and on about that because I just think that, like, you know what? That ship sailed, and I'm gonna do better in life, both in terms of like talking with people cordially, and then with enjoying the games in general. If I move on, and I don't expect that of new Monster Hunter games, but you know what? It's a damn shame.
By the way, the reason I even think that is because I swear to goodness, I read a Ryozo quote that was like, "This is why you can move while you heal now."
No, I mean they did say that, but I mean, and I acknowledge that is a use case where like, because monsters can chase you and because there's no way to zone, you need something else to balance that out. But that doesn't mean that you make healing so free that you can do it all the time with no punishment, and then you can go restock up on it for free and keep healing forever and ever until you literally run out of it in your box. It's just not how you balance that.
I agree, and I have no problem with the guts pose coming back. If they bring it back in Monster Hunter 6, you want to know? Wait, if they bring it back in Monster Hunter 6, you want to know my reaction? Oh, cool. Neat. I don't feel like it it doesn't add that much to me.
It really does, though.
Yeah, to you, in your opinion. I've been playing these games as long as you. I can feel a way. He says, wiping tears from his eyes. I just don't think it adds that much. I think sharpening is like, you know, I can still get away with some nonsense sharpens in like all the games.
I think you can clearly see that what they did to sharpening, that's balanced. It's balanced because you start it, and if it was a bad call, you roll out and you don't get the sharpen. Healing should work like that.
That's true. Okay.
That's balanced. You have to pick an opening for it. Wow, depth. You can't just do it and then heal forever, no matter what.
All right. So, what about?
I gotta stop yelling. My wife's asleep.
No. Yell away. How do you feel?
No, I can't. She's asleep.
How do you... No, yell. She must know. Okay.
No.
The fact that the health has to tick up, like you have to drink the whole potion to get its full value. How do you feel about that in terms of value?
You get healing, now you get healing literally the second you hit the button. In Rise, it's even worse somehow.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. The amount of times I scummed it by just like, yep, I've got way too many healing items. I would just like, I would take a sip and then I would roll, and then I would take a sip and I would roll. I would spend more resources.
You can do that.
Yeah, that's I agree. That's way too much.
Also, this game right now is running like some bad. This game's running bad on the Wii U. Poor Wii U.
I'm sorry.
So like I said, I don't expect them to bring it back. I will keep playing Monster Hunter. I will keep enjoying Monster Hunter. I just think it's a damn shame. I feel the same way about armor skills, but I don't really want to get into it right now.
Yeah, we'll get into that 2 weeks from now.
Oh God.
I'm excited. Look, yeah, no, I agree with you on like the front of it adds something to the game that has been lost, but also I don't really mind. But I admire the passion. I admire the chutzpah.
And like the argument that I think makes more sense isn't, oh, but the monster can chase you now. It's like there's still openings. You still attack in openings. You still sharpen in openings. It's not like the openings don't exist anymore. The argument is that monsters move a lot quicker and give you less openings that are the length of an old school potion drink. And that's legitimate because the monster patterns are legitimately faster and more difficult to deal with in the new games. Like that's the argument to me that makes more sense. But I still think that the healing is too advantageous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially, like, and you could fix it. You could fix it by making it so you can't endlessly restock. But because you can do that, it means that being able to chug potions whenever and whenever you want, even if you only get part of the potion, doesn't matter because you have effectively unlimited ones.
Yeah, you have. I definitely agree. Like, the negation of having to worry about your resources is 100% a problem.
It's this. I mean, to me, that is almost as severe as the flex, but not quite.
How long does it take? All right, from the time I press this button,
It's 3 seconds.
3 seconds. 3 seconds. How long does it take to complete a potion in
It's slightly longer.
Yeah, how long?
That is another part of the balancing. I don't know the exact. I think it might be 3.5 or 4. I don't know.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
What if they bump it up to like to get the full value out of a potion? You need 8 seconds.
See, a compromise that I think would be closer to balance is it drinks really slowly if you're moving at all. It drinks quickly if you stand still. Then you can still move if you want. Then there's choice, which I'm fine with. Give them the choice. That's interesting. Giving a player agency over I need to move, I can incur that longer drink time, or stand in place. I can get that buffed healing because I know the monster and I can use this opening. That's interesting. That takes knowledge. That takes thought. Not just I'm gonna keep spamming this heal button because it doesn't matter.
And just to add to it, you have to stand still for like 1 full second for that ability to start working. Because otherwise, I would just stutter step the whole way. Sorry.
You're fine. I'm sorry to yell so much. I'm not really upset. It's just like I am so I just that is my hill. That's my hill I'll die on. It's like what I don't talk about it often, but that's what I think. And I mean, like, I think it's a damn shame.
Yeah, like, I don't care. Be as heated as you like. I want you to be heated. I want you to have opinions. That's why we're here, baby. That's why we're doing it live. You let me know what you think. You let me know when you disagree with me. I'm a big boy. I can be disagreed with. Not that I even disagree, but on that front, like, yeah, no, you make a compelling point, one that I hadn't considered, and that's twice today. That's twice today that I hadn't really considered any of these points. I think that it's pretty neat. Yeah, wonder what they would do. Would it work the same for demon drugs? Demon drugs being infinite to a quest. How do you feel about that?
I don't use any of them. I don't have an opinion.
No?
No, I feel the same. I mean, like, those, honestly, demon drugs just, they used to be so expensive that I didn't use them because I didn't have the resources back in freaking Monster Hunter Freemium Night, and I formed all of my habits in Freemium Night, and I can't shake them because I'm just incapable. But now I don't use them because things die too damn fast anyways, and I don't need it. I feel like I don't know. I don't have an opinion on this. Reapsies asks about cold and hot drinks. Those are a different thing entirely. Those are like the last some of the last remnants of them emphasizing preparation and like items and bringing, like, you spending time before a hunt gathering up the right items, whether going out into a map and gathering them or combining them yourself in the box or buying them from the store and bringing them with you. You preparing for a hunt. Those are the last vestiges of that actually being a part of the game, like the game's loop. And with them gone, it's basically just like, just show up and like whatever. And like, that's fine. If that's how they want it to be, don't keep hot and cool drinks around as like the weird additions from when that still mattered.
I think we touched on that like a lot in the first episode as to how I feel they could bring hot and cool drinks back in a way that feels less tedious.
And like, I don't know. I think that if you're gonna have people prepare, if you're gonna have preparation be part of the game, then have it be a part of the game. But if you're not, it doesn't matter if cool or hot drinks are in there. I mean, like, they don't care if you bring whetstones anymore. They don't care if you bring bug nets or pickaxes anymore. Like, they don't care about that. They don't care about you stocking for specific types of runs, whether it's a capture run or a gathering run or whatever it is.
Yeah, I just can't say that I don't really miss anything. And my philosophy on like games in general is always like, if I miss something about XYZ, I'll just go back and play that older game.
Yeah, and like, that's the nice thing is you can go do that. That's the nice thing is that there's so many Monster Hunter games that are the way I'm talking about with potion flexes that like, I'm literally never gonna run. Oh, hello. Are you doing okay with it, bud?
Oh, yeah, you know it. I'm about to triple this quest. Get off me, Rathalos. I'm dead.
No,
I'm out. Get out of here, you punk.
Go to the camp, heal in the bed.
Oh, quick, I better zone.
Okay, that works.
Oh
too.
god, he's gonna beat me up, which is something that often happens when you try to zone, which completely takes the wind out of the sails of my argument before.
It sure does.
But yeah, no. I
was
totally
gonna say,
understand
there's so many games where you can go back and enjoy potion flexes that like I'm never gonna run out of them. I'm never gonna run out of ways to enjoy my potion flex kink. It's just like, I just think it's a shame that won't be part of the games going forward because I think it really adds a lot.
No, I can see what you mean. I can see what you mean. But also, You know, I can walk and drink a glass of water at the same time. Which is a terrible argument, but they were shooting for more realism. They were shooting for more realism.
Yeah, they sure were.
That's what they said.
I love my golden invincibility blanket I can wear in real life, man. It's great.
You don't have one of those? Maybe they're just...
No, I don't. I really would like one.
Maybe they're just something you didn't get in the States. But of course, Monster Hunter, the most realistic game. You know what? You guys can't have your cake and eat it too and be like, oh, I want the more realistic, grounded in reality elements, but also I want to stand still when I drink a goddamn potion. And I also know that's not you, but fictitious straw man out there who I know is listening.
People who want realism for games should go play like Rust or something. That's what that game's about, right?
Yeah, you know, but I think in Rust people spend a lot of time with their dick out, so not sure how I feel about that. Don't want it to be realistic. I don't want it to be realistic either.
We're getting into the weeds. Realistic means no iframes, so I'm not for it.
Yeah, I think iframes are like, if they remove those, then...
I mean, they're what I jokingly reference as the reason why I only play Monster Hunter.
Alright. I think we have a challenge to complete next time. Will get those armless rats. But,
okay.
Unfortunately...
Has your time run dry tonight?
Unfortunately, yes. I wish that it hadn't, because I'm having a great time, I think.
I'm sorry we've ended on such a bombastic note.
It's
I feel
not
badly for people.
Why would you feel badly? This is
because
what it is.
This is not how I usually present myself on stream.
Be passionately? You be passionate. You say it. You speak your truth, King. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. I'm glad that you have a strong and nuanced opinion on something that doesn't matter, because that's all this podcast is. We're talking about a video game, and not just video games. Singular, as a series. That's it. And we're doing it once every 2 weeks, and we're doing it live, baby. And Uchi's there sometimes, so you be passionate.
Is Monster Hunter Passion Cast too saucy of a name?
Oh, I don't think so. I think that there's nothing but passion. Remember for like 4 episodes straight how I launched into a tangent about nothing and I sounded exactly like
Monster
you did?
Hunter Passion Podcast?
Yeah, Passion Cast? The disaster of Passion Cast, I think.
No, the Monster of
Prime of
the
Passion
Monster
Cast.
Hunter Passion Podcast.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good.
I think it's a decent name.
All right, we'll discuss the name at a different time.
The
But no,
Monster of Passion Cast.
You be passionate. You be passionate. It's good stuff. But I had a fantastic time on today's podcast. I hope that you did too.
Allison. Me too.
Yeah. Having passionate interactions, you know it, Hot Pocket. I'm a passionate man. I'm always down to commit crimes of passion. But
Phalacin, would you like to tell us about what you've got going on in the next couple weeks?
all right. Chat room gamers. On the 13th of November, I am hosting a farewell to Shadowbringers in Final Fantasy XIV, as well as an LGBTQIA+ fundraiser where we're going to be raising money for various LGBT focused charities, because I don't know, I got the idea in my head and I wanted to. So that's going to be really fun. 12 to 15 hours of raiding. So if you want to see some of the high-end content from that game, please feel free to come along. We're going to have a really, really good fun time with that. Other than that, I'm returning to Freedom Unite next week. I'm excited to get back into Monster Hunter. I've taken a bit of a month off it because I don't know. I've been playing it pretty solidly for a year, and I wanted to give it a bit of a break.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah, I thought it's really given me the ability to gain some perspective, not being immersed in it all of the time. And I think that that's been really good for me. What about you, my friend? Please, tell me what you've got going on.
Well, we're going to be playing more of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. We're going to be working I'm going to solo my way through Low Rank Hub, even though we've been doing some of this ourselves. I'm going to solo my way through these quests as well, and continue to collect weapons and drive chat mad with how many different designs I'm making. I've been visiting a little bit of Monster Hunter World on the weekends so that I can try and have more informed opinions about some of the things that we talk about in general on the podcast, and just like World is a game that goes more out there and changes more things and tries more things than almost anything else in the series, and it's really important to me that I experience those things now that I'm trying to experience the games more thoroughly and like really think about how those things make me feel. So I'm going to be visiting it about once a week right now, and that's usually on Saturday nights. So I'm going to be doing a little bit more of that. And then, of course, this week I'm going to do a naked purple G-rank Gypsyros in Freedom Night with Hunting Horn. So if you haven't seen a naked hunt on Gypsyros, and if you haven't seen 2nd Gen Hunting Horn, then check it out. Stick around.
I'm excited
for the pain.
Excited for it. All right. we had some good topics today. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed the podcast. I certainly did.
Yeah.
I think it gets better every episode. Once it has a name, it'll be something. I don't want to say it'll be better, but it'll be something. It'll be something. But please, if you guys are part of my stream, make sure you head over to RistrettoChronicles. Someone who's very knowledgeable, very sweet, knows a lot about Monster Hunter. Definitely worth your time. I encourage it. There was no betrayal episode. There was no betrayal. But he's a real sweetheart. If you had a good time here, you know, consider coming back. That's all I got for you. We're going to be doing this once every 2 weeks, as per usual. Spell Rist's name right. Good start. I nearly wrote Cronkylez. Nearly spelt it wrong.
That's okay. That's fine.
Words.
Phalacin, I hope you have a nice rest of your day in chat. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the As of Yet Unnamed 3 Ultimate podcast with Rist and Phalacin.
Let me pull up someone to raid.
Yeah, why don't you choose this time? I feel like I've chosen the raid the last couple times. You let me know who to raid.
Okay.
I hope I didn't wake my wife up.
Good. I'm sure it's all good. It's all good.
I'll find out soon enough.
Gonna get in trouble.
I don't know.
Thank you for being here, Phalacin. I hope you all had a good time. On to 3 Ultimate.
You looking at who else is streaming this game? I don't think anybody else is streaming this game. I think it's just us two. Yeah, it's just us two.
I think
there is somebody streaming Freemy Night.
Freemy Night?
Never mind. It's not actually Freemy Night.
No.
No.
Oh, you're right.
It's something else.
It's just that's us. I think that there's a mutual friend of ours streaming Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, like FPS failure. So we should.
Oh hell yeah! Yeah, we should. Wait, they're streaming? I don't even know if I follow them. Let's go heck and follow them, dude.
Let's do it.
Let's raid FPS.
All right.
No way.
Everyone, be good to yourselves. Ask your friends how they're doing today. I'll talk to you all incredibly soon. You be well. Be good to FPS failure. Be good to yourself. All right. Take care, all.
All right. Cheers, folks. We'll see you over at FPS's stream. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night.